Yep. Hey y'all, hello everyone. Thank y'all for joining us tonight in the chat. I appreciate each and every one of you for showing up. If y'all haven't shared this post already, share this so that everybody out there share this to the groups you're in. And once y'all share it, just let everybody know we're live now. I've got Abe Sias. We're doing continuation of last week's show. Actually, I don't think it was last week. I think that we did that show. Was that Sunday? I can't remember what night we did that show.
No, it was
Wednesday.
like Wednesday.
Wednesday night. And so y'all had so many good questions in the chat. And I usually try to take the questions, y'all. I usually try to take the questions mostly towards the show, but y'all had we have and Josh from Paranormal Roundtable, he's us again tonight. I guess as far as to get in there. I'm going to try to take your questions. Real quick, I'm just going to give y'all shout outs out in the chat. Thank you for showing up tonight. Edith Gomez, thank you. Melissa Purvis, thank you for showing up tonight. Jason Broussard, World Bigfoot Radio. Duke Sullivan, I don't know if you're still out there. If you're still in the chat now, then let me know down below in the chat. Thank you for showing up. And just let you know, Josh Turner wants to reach out to you. So if you could get in touch with Josh Turner, Duke Sullivan, World Bigfoot Radio. Jordan Cogburn, thank you for showing up. Richard Jr., Gregory Thibodeau, thank you for showing up. Matthew Osborne, thank you. 86, thank you for showing up tonight. Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations, thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Al Santoriga, thank you for showing up tonight. Sherry Porter, shout outs before I get started. Truthy Ruthie, thank you for showing up. Joe Classic, thank you for showing up tonight. And y'all also make sure that your comments or whatever, y'all make sure y'all put y'all's comments in all caps. Not comments, your questions. If you got a question that you want me to address or bring up for the panel, y'all make sure y'all put that in all caps because it's easier to notice. This heifer here, thank you for showing up tonight. Fab Welderman, thank you for showing up tonight. Thank you for showing up. Make sure that you like who those sure that y'all let people as they come in, y'all just greet them and then let them know about questions. But with that being said, we're going to jump right into this later on. Also, real quick, because I may forget, y'all moderators who are in the chat, anybody who comes in tonight, like with any rude or disrespectful comments or trolls or whatever, as far as the guests are concerned, or as far as me, the host, or anybody on the panel is concerned, make sure real y'all just time them out. But if they are crazy or trolling and they're out of control, then just completely block them from the chat because we don't have time for that here. Chap, thank you. Sugay, thank you for showing. Johnny Yuma, I'm gonna get started. Sad thing though. We'll go ahead and get covering last week. DJ Tyler Radio, also thank you for showing up tonight. So Abe,
I'm gonna.
thank you for coming back on the show because
Can you hear me right now,
doing
Bettina?
tonight.
Sister Bettina, can you hear me? Because I keep on. You
Yes,
keep on breaking in and out. But if you can hear me, I'll just go with like this.
yes, I
It's
can
kind of
hear
like
you.
a.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. It just sometimes when
It's
you're
okay
talking,
now.
just it's breaking in and out. But I can hear you right now.
In and out, and anytime what I've noticed is like when I have guests discussing certain stuff, on the show when it's deeper issues, and a lot of times they'll glitch out, and sometimes I'll get cut out of the chat or out of the feed. But if so, if I get cut out for any reason tonight, Al said me not so much. Y'all let me know too as y'all are watching. Like if it's starting to go out, I may have to check my router. But we're gonna go right into it. Abe, like last week on the show or Wednesday on the show, we discussed several different things. We were talking about the Dogman phenomenon. One of the things that I wanted to bring up that I didn't get really much of a chance to go into because I know that you share a lot of pictures, the different groups that you're on Facebook, and
Hmm.
as I well know, and you know too, when it comes to pictures of cryptids, Dogman, Bigfoot, and stuff like that, a lot of the times the pictures will show up pixelated or grainy or blurred, and sometimes kind of digital looking. And my thoughts on those pictures when it comes like that, I think that those pictures are caused to be that way by these cryptids. I feel like they have the ability to make the picture show up that way. And the reason I say that is because when it turns out to be, you can take a picture of a car or anything else that's surrounding that area, just of a friend or any random person or something else. But when it comes to taking a picture of a cryptid, whether it's Dogman, Bigfoot, or anything else paranormal, a lot of the times those pictures will show up that way. Do you feel like that these creatures or beings have the ability to cause that?
Of course, they have the capabilities of causing that. No, we can talk about the elementals. Elementals control the elements, so they have the ability to cause the atmospheric disturbance, like form a bubble and cause a disturbance in the nature, for them to be able to hide or camouflage themselves. Like I tell people, the I believe they hide within the tree lines and in the darkness during the day because the ultraviolet rays of the sun will break the cloak. If y'all notice that current picture that I placed, where it's got a big one and a little one, they were by the edge where there was an open space and the sun was setting, so it was able to break their cloak. The ultraviolet of the sun. So I believe they do have some kind of a cloaking device in that nature, and I believe it has to do with the spiritual like element that, like if you look at the picture, you can see like it's got like you can see the form and everything, how they look, the faces and stuff like that. But that's what they do. I
Yes.
sense I sensed something looking beside me when I was walking down the path. Like if somebody was right there, I could feel the presence spiritually. My spiritual senses triggered, so I just aimed the camera to that direction. Because I was doing a live feed like we're doing right now. So every time either I hear something or I feel something or my senses get triggered, I aim the live. I aim the camera to the direction I'm sensing something, or I hear a noise. I move the camera, and that's how I capture this phenomenon. People ask me, how do you do this? I'm not actually taking a picture. I'm doing a live, going recording. And when they come and enter my space, they cause all this disturbance, magnetic disturbance, where you have lag, pixelation, like you mentioned, but
Mm-hmm.
they do it to cover themselves, to hide. That's what they do. They use that to hide. And if they can do it during the day like that, I was just lucky to be able to capture them with the ultraviolet rays of the sun. Imagine how hidden they are at night when there's no sun or no ultraviolet. You could actually see, if you could see a silhouette during the day with the ultraviolet. So imagine at nighttime you'll be able to see like a dark shadow or a dark silhouette walking through the park. But they have that cloak ability. I would say it's more of a like a spiritual cloak where they can go in and out. Can they make contact with you? I believe they can, because it happened to me where they showed me their form, and then I started believing what I was witnessing was real. And once I believed in it, then it stopped showing me its form, and I started getting attacked spiritually. What I mean by that is, imagine you're walking in the park and you hear footsteps, like somebody's running behind you, like heavy footsteps. And when you're turning around, you just get hit and you fly 4 or 5 feet, tumble a row. So I was fighting spiritually and physically, when I gave that opening of belief to them that there were actually a lycanthrope, werewolf, dogman, because they showed me their form for me to believe in it. And when I gave it the belief factor, that's when they started to attack. That's when I knew that what I was facing was something that was not really in the flesh. There was more about uh, faith. They was facing something demonic. But they have those capabilities that I'll tell you what. I put it to the test. Uh, I used to carry a backpack. I got the backpack. Maybe one day we'll show what I used to carry with me because I'm prior military. So I had a backpack with all my gear. I would put on
Yes.
my gear. I had knives. I had machetes, just in case something came at me physically. I was ready for it. But I put all that to the side because it started attacking me spiritually. How are you going to fight something? This is for the people that say they have guns, whatever. I used to carry equipment with me. How are you going to fight something that you can't see? That you can't see. How are you going to shoot at it if you can't see it? You know what I'm saying? That's what happened to me. So I couldn't see nothing. So I left all my gear at home and I had to start fighting spiritually. I knew how to fight spiritually. I just didn't know what I was dealing with. But once I started fighting spiritually,
Absolutely.
they what people don't understand, if they have the capabilities to cause distraction within the atmosphere, they also have the ability to spiritually attack you. If they can affect everything around you, they can affect everything within you, especially if there's an opening. So the battles I had in Elms Grove were
And
pretty severe, pretty severe. Fighting spiritually against them.
based on what you just, well, I want to say based on what you just said, I do agree with you on that. And people always often wonder, like, where they bring the correlation together with the paranormal. Um, and Caroline, bring your up in a few minutes, or in case I don't bring it back up, but that's a good question. So y'all keep y'all's questions in mind.
Yeah,
But what I wanted to say is that the correlation between the paranormal activity, lights in the sky, a lot of lights in the sky, and UFO sightings have been seen at the same time that Bigfoot or Dogman activity has been spotted, as well as Dogmen have been spotted during the same time as a UFO sighting or lights in the sky, orbs and all that kind of stuff. And when it comes down to it, if y'all think when it comes to a lot of these paranormal investigators and stuff, when they go out on investigations, some of the things that they experience when they're out there, they've got their equipment, their cameras, recorders, and all that kind of stuff, and they get out there and the batteries are fully charged, and out of nowhere, they completely drain. They've even got backup battery packs, and they're completely drained, or they take pictures or video, and some of the stuff is not recorded at all. And the same stuff happens as well with Dogman and Bigfoot. Cryptid activity bring back into the light. One of the things I also wanted to say about this, and I'm going to ask Abe his thoughts on it as well. One of the things I wanted to bring up as far as Dogman and Bigfoot, my correlation, bringing it together with the paranormal aspect of it, is because we have a lot of different theories when it comes to Dogman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids. Which you have the groups that believe that they are flesh and blood only. That's one train of thought. You got the ones who believe that they are, what do you call it, the ethereal dogman, or interdimensional beings, and my personal belief, the Nephilim. And then you have people who believe that they are hybrids created by the government. And I do believe, to be honest with you, I do think that maybe in some type of ways, I think that each one of those categories to a certain degree are true, because we can't just put all of them in the box. Some of them, I believe, that are, for the ones who believe they're straight up flesh and blood, nothing more, nothing less. Then we can say that for the ones that I've seen, for the most part, I've seen them do strange things. He's probably seen them disappear, reappear. Sometimes you can take pictures of them, and you can, or sometimes you can't see them at all unless you're recording or taking a picture. But sometimes you can see them with the naked eye. Some of them have the ability to cloak, which I brought this up to Abe and Josh on the last episode that I did. The cloaking is not just one way. There's one way that I've seen them cloak, which I call the predator effect. If y'all have seen the movie The Predator, then y'all look that up and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It kind of looks like Raj. And sometimes they will cloak by camouflaging, where they completely blend in with their surroundings, the same way like you would have like an octopus or chameleon or some other natural animal like that, where they can blend into their surroundings. And then there's another thing that I've seen them do also, which that kind of looks like kind of like a fog or a mist or a veil, or for lack of a better word, maybe like a force field. I don't know how else to call it, but I've got pictures of that too. But Abe, what I wanted to ask you on this is that my thoughts on it also are the fact that when it comes to paranormal, if you put the paranormal aspect in there, because I'm going to discuss each one, but if you take it from a paranormal aspect on this, do you feel that from a paranormal standpoint of these creatures, do you feel like that some of them have the abilities to and others don't? Do you think they all have the same abilities? Because some of them you wonder, and I've been asked questions before, if they can cloak and hide themselves, then why would they need to hide behind trees? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's all about what their mission is, what they're trying to do, bringing the spiritual aspect out of it. If they can get you start believing by showing you the beastly form, whether it be of a dogman or a bigfoot, right? Uh, they use the energy to manifest themselves spiritually, right? So they get the energy from the trees, from a water source, from an electrical power line, and your equipment, and possibly they'll drain your energy just to surface up. But they do that to try to they do all this kind of activity so you can start believing what you're seeing for the so we can find a spiritual opening to attack. When we talk about orbs, UFOs, I've seen this activity when I was going through what I was going through. I was seeing this shadow people, I was seeing reptilians, I was seeing UFOs, and I was seeing the Dogman, Bigfoots all at once. Like all it's kind of like something was open that all these things were surfacing up. Which questions your insanity at times. Like you don't want to tell nothing to nobody what you're going through because they might not understand. And we get that a lot here in the in our groups where there's daughters, there's trolls, that don't want you to say your story. But I used to go, when you don't want to bring danger to your family. In my household, it wasn't just me and my son. It was me, my son, my sister, and all her children. So when activity would pick up, I didn't want the danger to come to the family. So I would leave the house. I would leave the house. I would protect the home, and I leave the home, and I will leave the park at nighttime. So if something was trying to find me spiritually, well, it's going to find me out there. So there was one day where it was like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm walking, doing an exercise, try to get my mind off the things that I was witnessing, and I seen two giant red orbs. These orbs had to be like 9 foot tall. They were huge, big red orbs coming at me from two different directions. You know, so they were coming from two different directions straight at me. They were moving fast. And as I was seeing them, I started praying the deliverance prayer, the Our Father, and I said for the Heavenly Father to help me. Because they were coming directly at me. Next thing you know, out of the sky was two giant blue orbs that appeared, and they collided with each other. When they collided against the red orbs, you could just see little molecules just disperse, where the light blue orbs defeated those dark energy red orbs, and then the blue orbs that went back into heaven. That's when I knew that what I was dealing with was something. The red was something of demonic. I believe the light blue red orbs that came to assist me that day was heavenly angels that when I was praying, God sent help
Yes.
my way. But after that, it's like when things like that happen, then you start, because the Heavenly Father is not going to keep you blinded from what you're dealing with, what you're facing. He's going to want you to fight spiritually of what you're dealing with. So he's going to show you your enemy, and that's exactly what happened to me numerous times. But yes, there's that spiritual aspect out of it. What is if somebody's seeing something, they're seeing something that's in the flesh. That's how I put it to the test. Yeah, I put it to the test because I want to find out the answers. So say, okay, next time I see the dog man, I'm going to rebuke it in Jesus Christ's name, just to make sure it's not demonic. Well, guess what? It showed itself to me. I say, I tie, bind, and rebuke you in Jesus Christ's name. Guess what it did, brothers and sisters? Boom! In a puff of smoke, disappeared. If it's something that's in the flesh, that's a full-blooded animal, it's not going to disappear. When you said, "I tie, bind, and rebuke in Jesus Christ's name," that's when I knew what I was dealing with,
Absolutely.
something demonic. So I went in the route of, instead of fighting physically, which I wasn't going to be able to do nothing against it physically, I had to fight spiritually. I was getting spiritually attacked big time in Elms Grove, that a lot of my family members wouldn't talk to me because they didn't know what I was going through. They wasn't there to see what was happening to me. So sometimes when you go through something, and this is for people that have stories that they experience. Well, sometimes when you're going through something, you keep it to yourself because you don't want people to think you're crazy or what you're going through. But then when people want to know the truth, they say, "Well, I don't believe you. I don't believe you went through this. So I want to go check it out." So they come to your area to find out if it's something happening like that there, and then they start witnessing the things that are happening, and they get spiritually attacked. Then they know that you're being 100% real, and you know, for anybody that shares stories or pictures, we get that a
Absolutely.
lot. We get that a lot of people that are doubters or trolls that come up against negatively. But I don't focus on those individuals. To me, it's kind of like going to school. Those are class clowns. So, to me, it's like I just focus on my mission, which is spreading the spiritual awareness of what we're dealing with. Because I don't want nobody to go through what I went through. Man, I got hit so many times, dropped to the ground so many times. I got shot up 3 cliffs by this unseen force. They're trying to take me out. When people say that they're friendly, I said, well, in Texas, where I was going through what I was going through, that wasn't friendly. They were attacking. It's kind of like they have the ability, since they're
Absolutely.
DDN's demonic, they have the ability to possess, to keep you bonded. So they come at you. When you talk about aliens, orbs, Bigfoots, Dogman, all these things start surfacing up. I can't even name more. Nosferatu, Dark Shadows, Skinwalkers, everything surfaces up from the witchcraft and Norgorancy because they're all coming at you.
Yes.
They get like a spiritual hit on you. So they're coming at you all at once because what is their goal? To bond you fully and possibly try to destroy you, right? When you hear about missing 401 cases of people that commit suicide, right? If you don't know, if you can't fight spiritually or have no kind of faith, they're going to engulf you. It's kind of like you're sinking in quicksand, or you can't breathe because they're all coming at you at once, and it's like you don't know what to do when they're trying to engulf you because that's what they do. They bond you, right? But I had a little space
Absolutely.
that I used, and I call upon the Heavenly Father, and when He came to assist me, it's when I forgave. I forgave people that I had animosity towards, like because of bad things they tried to do to me when I was younger. I forgave those individuals. Once I forgave, then I found out that the openings I had was the unforgiveness that I had. That was the opening it was using to come at me. So once I forgave, and forgiveness is part of love. The Heavenly Father blessed me with a spiritual gifts of discernment to finally overcome them spiritually, in which I did in Elms Grove. But I left the area. I just know, for anybody that feels that they're being spiritually attacked, that's viewing here right now, you're not crazy, because that's what they do. Uh, what you have to look and
Absolutely.
reflect. What I had to do is reflect, what spiritual opening might you have? Do you have anger, hatred, unforgiveness? Because they're going to use that to enter your personal foundation, possibly into your home, to try to gain full control and try to bond you. So that's when you have to, since you're the head of your household, you have to fight spiritually, take authority over them. And Jesus Christ, you have that authority because you're a child of God, and you have the authority to say, "Hey, you're not welcome in my house. Leave now." But sometimes when
Absolutely.
people are being engulfed, they don't get the chance to say nothing out of their mouth because they're being so heavily bonded that it feels like there's hopelessness. But that's what they do. They make you feel hopeless. They make you feel sick. They don't want you to awaken spiritually. That's their mission, is to bond
Absolutely.
you. So the longer they can stay on you, the they'll have you control like a puppet of sort, because it's kind of like sometimes the things that you do, the actions you do, it's not even you. It's the things that are bonding you that is making you do those things. But once you free yourself from that bondage, it's a whole different feeling. It's an amazing feeling.
Absolutely. What I'm gonna do, Abe, because they've already started asking questions. What we're gonna do, y'all, I'm gonna give y'all probably about 20 minutes of questions here and there, and then I'm gonna kind of get into like some of the different things and topics that I want to discuss tonight with Abe on the show. I'm thinking that Josh may still be joining us. I'm not sure. I don't know if he's live or not, but he's supposed to be joining in. If not, then I'm still gonna go ahead on with this. But what I do want to say, I do want to take a couple of y'all's questions again, and I apologize in advance for the computer glitching out tonight. But whenever we're talking about some of the deeper topics like this, a lot of the times this has become commonplace. But Randy Petticourt, you said, are these encounters on the rise on the amount of encounters people are having? I think that they're on the rise, but I think for whatever reason, I don't know if there's a veil that's being lifted now to why we're seeing these things more and more. But I do know that even the Bible says, like, that the beasts of the field would be unleashed upon the earth or whatever in the last days. Um, so I don't know if that has anything to do with why they're out more now, or if it's always been like that, and just now more people are recording these things on their cell phones because everybody's got a cell phone now, and everything you can put out on the internet. I think it's harder for them to cover stuff up. Um,
Yeah, it's always, I have
let
to
me.
believe it's always been like that. It's always been like that. It's just the veil is getting lifted because people are getting awoke, and it's like you said, more content out there that people are actually witnessing it through TikToks or videos.
Absolutely, Abe. Derek Jones said, "Does the government catch flesh and blood creatures to manipulate their DNA?" I'll let you answer that question, and I'll tell you my thoughts on that next. But what do you think about that, Abe?
Well, the governments in the past used to do that. They were trying to create the super soldier. The Russians, I mean the Germans were trying to create the super soldier, and of course through technology, I believe there is things that the government implements, tries to create, like the cloak. I've seen a cloak, some sort on forehead, which I felt it was the government doing it. Where it's a cloak can pixelate different pixelations to hide, that you won't be able to see that is something there. I believe the government knows about the different through the satellites, and of course through the satellites throughout the years, they can tell where the enemy's at. I'm more sure they can tell they have the capabilities through thermals to see if there is other things besides human beings that are roaming around the earth that have these capabilities. They just don't want to bring the awareness to people because if you notice, the government wants to take Jesus out of the picture. So, are they affiliated with these things? Is a bigger question. Is the government affiliated with these unseen forces that come from a different realm or different dimension? That's the bigger question. And what would that affiliation be? What gain would they get? Of course, we know through wars that if you place Jesus Christ first in combat, the outcome will be you will win by placing Jesus Christ first. Spiritually, what does the government
Absolutely.
win out of it? You know, Necromancy, Dirgomancy. Of course, there's a lot of corrupt people within the government. They got pedophiles, they got people that do witchcraft, necromancy, and what was it? The god that they believe in, Sister Bettina, the statue that you were talking about last time. The
Was
Hillary
it
Clinton, the Bill
Molech?
Clinton, Moloch, and that's what they
That
believe in.
Al.
Moloch.
I
They
forgot
got
the name of that.
and these some are Masons, and like I said, a
Yes,
lot of witchcraft, a lot of witchcraft. So that's what they dwell in. They were, and
Bohemian.
if you notice,
Yeah,
all
that
the
was
things that they
Bohemian
tried,
Grove, Abe.
yes,
Bohemian
all the
Grove.
things that
Yeah.
all the things that they tried to do is against God. What are they setting us up for? And I think that's where the reason that the veil is being lifted, because our government is going against God by even taking them out of the equation, and they're bringing all these things out of abominations and different sins to say that it's good to do that. Well, what is going to surface up when you're opening yourself up to that kind of negativity? Of course, all these beings that people are seeing in beastly form, in spiritual form, that's what we're witnessing. And if you don't debate against what they're trying to do, that's why I always say, always maternal love foundation. If you're going through something spiritually, call upon Jesus Christ, because he's the only one that can show you the way. But the government, I believe, they're doing that on purpose, is to have mind and spiritual control. Like when we talk about the COVID, they're doing that. They've done that through the COVID. What was one of the things that they did that for? For the fear factor, and they went against God. They went against God. The hospitals went against God by killing a lot of innocent people in those hospitals, where they were supposedly had COVID in there. They killed those individuals. So there was, and what is that's like a sacrifice, right? So what are they sacrificing for? To what they believe in?
Absolutely.
This false gods.
And that sacrifice you were talking about before, like when we talked about sacrifice, when we were talking about what do you call it, gifting and stuff like that, giving them food or giving them water or taking them gifts, feathers and stuff like that. I look at that as the same, like I said before on Wednesday show, like I don't think that there's nothing, the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. So these things have already existed thousands of years. And so what we call today as gifting, back then I feel like they called offering. You're giving offering to these things, and some people worship these creatures. If you look at ancient Greek mythology, you had the goat man. We call it the goat man today, but back in those days they call it the satyr. Even the Bible in Isaiah chapter 11 brings up the satyr, and it brings up the screech owl and brings up different things like that. And when you look at that screech owl and you look at Minerva, or you look at Isis depicted in Egyptian um, writings and on the pyramids and stuff like that. So these things are resurfacing, never gone anywhere. They've always been here. And when you look at the book of Enoch, it goes into the fact that not only it goes more in depth into what Genesis 6 kind of mulled over. It didn't go in detail. But the book of Enoch went in detail, and it actually said that monsters were being created. Or the book of Giants, we're talking about monsters because those angels were also creating DNA with and coming into the animals. Is where do you think that you got these different types of beings? People were worshiping Baal. They were worshiping what I guess you had centaurs and stuff like that. I think it's a centaur that is a half man, half horse. Then you had the minotaur, half man, half bull. But Jerry Jones, on my answer to your question, does the government catch flesh and blood creatures to manipulate their DNA? It's definitely a possibility. I've heard stories of that. We don't know for sure what they're doing with these. I've heard people say that they're creating super soldiers. I've even heard people say that they were told by us that you killed one of our beings. Like, so are they releasing them out into the state and national forests? We don't know for sure. But if you look at all the different types of breeds and the variations, that's definitely a possibility. We don't have the answer fully on that, but we do ever they have killed someone, or when somebody's been attacked, or when there's an aggressive one in the area, these agencies come in and they take away the body, and sometimes they take them away live. And at those points in time, nobody can say where they're taking them to or what they're doing with them. Let me see. So that's my thoughts on that. And y'all have to just like right now, like they're finally coming out and admitting that aliens and UFOs are real. Well, we are that, and y'all need to have a ability to open up your mind wide enough to realize that it shouldn't take for the government to come out to you and say, "Hey, yeah, aliens are real." We already knew that. We already seen the UFOs. We've seen plenty of videos. So when it comes to it, that nobody should be able to tell you anything. They can tell you, but it's going to be on a need to know basis.
They
What are your thoughts in the
they
state and
can
national
the
parks?
government
Why
any
they keep that a secret?
the government can create whatever they want to create. They can create splice anything, create whatever they want to create. But there's one real creator, and he controls anything that has a spirit. The Watchers created the offspring was a Nephilim that wasn't created by God. So they were the creators of the Nephilim. When the flood came, destroyed and became what I call the DDN, disembodied demonic Nephilim. But the Heavenly Father still controls all life, and through fighting spiritually, you can overcome the DDN, the Legion, Lucifer, and anything man-made from the government. You can anything that's man-made, you can overcome it because no matter how they create it, they still somewhere within them they know that there's a higher power, and the higher power is not going to let you get overwhelmed, especially you have faith and belief by something in that nature. But they do have, I believe, uh, where they have hidden messages through music or seeing something through TV where they send a message to you. Like if you're prior military, I remember when I was in the Battle of Medina Ridge, I noticed something when I was out there. They were giving us all kinds of shots. And I found out after the war that the government was sending a signal through the satellites in which I noticed my fellow soldiers act differently. There was more of a primal, should I say, instinct, more animalistic. People put a debate. When you're in the front lines, it's about survival. You change the way you think because you want to survive, and you do whatever it takes to overcome the enemy. But they said that the government was using a signal to trigger you, to make you different. That's what happened when I was out there, and I noticed that the signal was still on because the people, when they came back to Germany, they were causing all kinds of chaos and havoc. Was it the government? And we could put a debate, or since there's killings and there's anger and there's safety, there's spiritual openings, or was it an attachment that we had upon us? If you didn't have the faith and you had a spiritual opening, was that an attachment that you had on to make you change as an individual? And that's what I see right now. What I see, there's a lot of those openings. It could be something minute, it could be something big, but there's a lot of spiritual openings. It's a spiritual war. It's a spiritual war happening right now that people are not even talking about. The news is not talking about it. We're seeing all these people die. Unknown causes, right? They find dead bodies. The Dogmans are being spotted. Bigfoots are being spotted. Uh, the Mothmans all these different cryptids are being spotted. Where's the government? How come the government is not interfering? When there's a hurricane, the government tries to get involved and try to help the people, or something in nature happens, right? How come they're not putting it out in the news, in the media outlet? The reason they're not putting it out there, brothers and sisters, because they don't want you to know that there's a spiritual war happening. They don't want you to know Jesus Christ. They don't want you. They want to take religion out of the picture because that's the way how we're going to overcome them. They don't want you to fight spiritually. They want to keep you bonded to be able to defend yourself spiritually to overcome this this how should I say demonic threat that we're facing daily. There's numerous times that I make these videos. They don't like what I speak of because I bring Jesus into the picture. They surface up. They'll come bang on my walls. They'll make noise outside. I just pray against them. But this I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm just sharing my wisdom and knowledge
Mhm.
with y'all.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take. I want to bring up Lunar Eclipse's comment, and I'm gonna answer this, and then we'll let Abe get into it. But I want to say, Lunar Eclipse. You said if Dogman is only spirit, then how can a spirit react to weapons? When Jesus came back from the dead, he was in the flesh and spirit. And I wanted to respond to that real quick, Abe. Lunar Eclipse. So you said if they're only spirit. So one, I don't believe that they're only spirit. I think that there's several things going on there. I think that there are some that are. I believe there's some that are spirit only, and the reason I say that is because I believe to a certain degree that there are some shape shifting spirits out there, or skinwalkers and stuff like that can transform into different forms and appear as whatever they want to appear as. So that's one aspect of it. So some things that look like a dog man or a Bigfoot are not always dog man or Bigfoot. Sometimes they are. shapeshifters shape shifting into that form. Now, also at the same time, I do still believe that there is a possibility that there are Bigfoot and Dogman and cryptids that are flesh and blood fully, that don't have these supernatural or spiritual abilities, and I believe that those are offspring of Nephilim. But at the same time, for those ones, I do feel like that they are flesh and blood because they do have offspring. They do eat, they do kill, and can be killed. People have seen them bleed. They can come into houses. They can open doors. They can do several different things that are flesh and blood. But at the same time, also been witnessed, and I've witnessed it myself, and so has Abe and many others. They are also able to do other things that other natural animals cannot do. So, the scripture that you brought up when Jesus came back from the dead, he was in the flesh and spirit. So your question was, if Dogman is only spirit, then how can a spirit react to weapons? Well, for one, you have to understand that if you, like it says in the Bible, like as above, so below. Like, so there's a spiritual battle, there's a spiritual fight that we're fighting. And so when it comes to these spiritual things, if you ask, how can a spirit react to weapons? Well, how can a spirit wield a weapon? With that same question, how can a spirit wield a weapon when you have angels commanded by God in the Bible at times, like in the book of whatever the story was with what was it, Lot and his family, whatever, those angels that came to his house, those angels were spirits, but at the same time they were able to kill thousands of people like in one night. They were also, even though they were spirit, they were also able to come in there and eat a physical with Job and his family. And some people say, well, they can't be spiritual and flesh and blood at the same time. Yes, they can. Jesus was spiritual and flesh and blood at the same time because he was able to walk on water. What person today can walk on water? Now, some of you might say, well, Jesus never existed. Okay, well, if Jesus never did exist, let's just say that Jesus never existed. We don't need the Bible to explain supernatural abilities because you have supernatural abilities and power in every culture. So we took the Bible out of it. There's people like, I don't know if the Buddhist monks and stuff like that that are able to levitate several feet off the ground. There's several different things. You have people who have offered food to spirits and have altars set up in their home, put that plate out there at that altar, and the spirits will come and eat it. Those angels came and they sat down and they ate a physical meal with them, with Jesus. When Jesus, but to speak on your specific scripture, lunar eclipse, when Jesus came back, he said, "Do you not see that I'm flesh and bone?" He didn't say flesh and spirit. He was a spirit, but he said flesh and bone. So that means that he had flesh and bones just like we do, but at the same time, he was still spiritual. And being that, he still was able to walk through that wall, which we have shadow figures and dogman and all these other different things, aliens able to come in through the roof and everything else. So when you look at that, that's why people sometimes think that the spiritual aspect, well, that doesn't make sense. Spirits can't do this. Spirits don't eat. In the Bible, that the spirits in heaven don't have to eat. He didn't say that they couldn't eat. But what are your thoughts? Apparently, spirits are able to put on a flesh and blood body and be able to come down and have sex with human women. So they're able to
Yes.
go outside of their boundaries. What do you
There you
think,
go.
Abe?
That's you said it right, nail on the coffin right there. When the Watchers took the form of man, that they slept with a woman to create the Nephilim. They're angels. So do the angels and the one third that fell from the heavens have those capabilities? Yes, they do. They can manifest to be in any kind of form for a period of time, or short periods of time. That's why when people say they see a Bigfoot or dogman, they shoot at it, and either it goes through a tree or it disappears when they shoot at it. They shoot a clip around, on it, but it just hits the branches or the trees, but nothing do it. They're seeing it. Maybe it's a spirit that's seeing what seems to be something real. When they shoot it, nothing happens. Or when you pray against, when they go through the trees and you go into prayer. What I used to do, if they went through a certain tree, I had my holy water, or I had some garlic oil, some garlic with olive oil and salt, and I placed a cross on that tree, so we wouldn't be able to use it to teleport yourself through it. I would do that, because I felt it was some kind of portal. So, when you fight spiritually, you tend to learn and do certain things that you normally don't do in life. If I would see one standing on the park at a certain area, I'll go in a place of holy Christ right on the area we're standing. So it wouldn't be able to do that no more. But that's how you fight spiritually. You do things more spiritual that you normally wouldn't do. But when you're placed in a situation of survival. But yes, they have those capabilities to manifest for short periods of times. When demons appear to people, offering them money and all these things because they want them to follow them, they can only appear for a short period of time. At the same time, when they're fixing to go back into the realm, their manifestation that they took, it starts going away because, like I said, they can only be here for a certain limited a time. So when they have to go, you start seeing skulls and the beastly form, and it says it has to go, especially if we go into prayer, and then it'll go and disappear, a puff of smoke, and you have a sulfur smell or pestilence smell, no different than what the Bigfoot and the Dogman are doing. They have the capability
Yes.
to disguise themselves in many ways, but they can be here for a short period of time. But it's more of a spiritual battle when they're showing itself to you. You're in your bubble and what you believe in, and they're showing this, they're entering your space, your spiritual space. So your senses are actually seeing what's in front of you, and you're seeing it, which looks like something real. But when you start praying, you're rebuking in Jesus Christ's name, and they disappear, then you know what you were seeing was something not real that was out of this world. But they do have the abilities where people can see them for a short period of time. What can they do with that short period of time?
Absolutely.
I believe they can destroy a person if the person has a spiritual opening or has many openings. They have the ability to possess an individual for a short period of time, make them jump a bridge, make them jump off a building, make them get in front of a car. That's what people are dying right now. People are dying in this manner where they have these spiritual openings and they're possessing them in that way just to destroy the flesh. They're not our friends. They are not our friends. They dislike us humans because we're under God's image. They hate anything that God has created. So they don't have a chance to make it into the kingdom of heaven. The 1/3 or anything that's affiliated with Lucifer doesn't have a chance to make it to the kingdom because their fate is already sealed. But we do have a chance. That's why we're getting targeted spiritually. We're all getting spiritually targeted because their mission is to try to destroy as many people as possible, so they'll fall short to make it into the kingdom of heaven. So if they can attack somebody that is, when people talk about suicidal, that people are suicidal, and not they're really suicidal, is that they're being bonded by these things to make them commit suicide. Or if people are alcoholics, drug addicts, that's a spiritual opening that he uses to attach and possibly destroy the individuals. Well, you hear it all the time where my friend died, he was always drinking and he died in a car wreck, and stuff like that. That's what they do. That's easy prey for them. But somebody that prepares ourselves, like me, when I go and do my investigations, I pray daily. I have my faith and believe in God daily. I use a little bit of extra protection around me, just in case. Like I got a piece of selenite right here. It's a little selenite.
Mm-hmm.
So if any energy is going to be drained, it's not going to be drained out of my spirit. It'll be drained out of the energy conductors that I have around my neck. Spiritually, because it's not a good feeling when you get spiritually drained. But at the same time, when they manifest, they start making noises. For example, growlings, different animal noises. They talk different languages. Why do they do that? Because they want to find a way in. So if you start believing that you're hearing these things, then there's a spiritual opening to use this to try to attach itself to you. That's how they do it. When I see the Bigfoot shows where they're banging on trees, and they're yelling back, and you hear an echo or something yelling back at them. That's what they're doing. They're finding a spiritual opening to attach to because they're believing that it's a Bigfoot doing this to them, but it's really the unseen forces. It's about the belief factor. They say, hey, or how you say it when your people are gifting, it's about the belief factor because
Yeah.
if they believe they're gifting something that's supposed to be a friend, you know, it's gifting. And so how come you can introduce your friend to everybody else? If you say it's a friend, right, there's something that's real. Introduce your friend to everybody else. So take a picture with your friend right beside you. You know, uh, it's not going to happen the way because it's dealing with a spiritual. It's between them and the thing that's trying to bond them. But that's what they do. They're not just master. How should I say? Uh, Things that know how to use the elements to camouflage themselves, but they're master manipulators, tricksters, and they can get into if they can get into your head, to your mind, your body, your spirit because of a belief factor, then they've already won. So I'm just saying here to whoever's viewing of what I've been through. I'm sharing my experience of what I've been through is do the opposite. Maintain your love foundation. I pray before I go in. If things start getting out of control in the area I go to, I pray there. Before I leave, I pray and I say for nothing to follow me home because by the time I'm leaving the area, they're following me. They're in pursuit. So I tell them you're not allowed to come to my home. You're not allowed to come. You got to take authority over them. There's some people that forget to do that, and when they forget to do that, guess what happens? I think I saw a Bigfoot in my living room.
Things follow you home.
I think I saw a Dogman in my kitchen, or the people that are gifting things.
Listen, Abe, don't forget, don't absolutely don't forget that point. Stay there because I want you to bring that back up in just a second. But real quick, Primal Cry, yeah, I see your comment. You said I'm going to say that you can't lump everything you don't understand into demonic category, and I agree. I don't think now when it comes to Bigfoot and Dogman, it's just we're bringing correlations together with the paranormal. Like I'm a person that I'm open minded enough to say we don't have all the answers to what these are now. I say Nephilim. It could be interdimensional. It could be demonic things. So what we're doing tonight is presenting all the possibilities. You got people that feel like they're all fun loving. They'll never hurt you. They never attack a person. Go out there, sing kumbaya to them. But at the same time, like, please still, like, I always like to tell people, still use common sense because at the end of the day, you don't just only have Bigfoot and Dogman out there. You still got your natural predators like coyotes, bears, and everything, wolves out in the woods and stuff like this. So still use common sense because at the end of the day, I would rather have protection than to not have it. But no, nobody's trying to put them in all in a demonic category. It's just for the correlations, and it's very important to do so when you're trying to understand something that you don't understand. The similarities, because the similarities are brought up between paranormal activity, Dogman, Bigfoot. You have people who have had Dogman and Bigfoot sightings and experiences with the graves or whatever, sleep paralysis and stuff like that happens as a result of these things. Sometimes these things follow you back home. So you have to understand and be able to bring correlation together to be able to have to it has you have to make it make sense because how can you fight off or how prepare for something if you don't even know like the similarities? You can put it. It's not all. It does not have to all be dealt with separately. Some things may,
And yeah,
but
and another thing,
there's a lot of similarities.
and another thing
Go
is
ahead.
if there was a Bigfoot or a Dogman, where's the bodies? Where's the confirmed kills of all the people that say they've killed a Dogman or a Bigfoot? Where's the body? Where's the picture? There's no body, no picture, no confirmed kills. You know, I was prime military. Confirmed kill means there's a body. Where's the bodies? Where's the pictures? Nothing. But the only thing that's hurting, like I believe the cryptid community, is the people that are hoaxing. You got a lot of hoaxers. You got people dressing up in costumes. I think I've seen a video where a guy was dressed in a costume and he's walking. You can see it's baggy, and then the bottom of his foot, you can see his tennis shoe. You know, there's a lot of hoaxers out there. There's a lot of people that are deceiving, misguiding the people. You know, you could tell when it's something that's a costume, but if they were real, where's the bodies? That's the bigger question. Where's the bodies of this Bigfoot, this Dogman? Where are they? If there were 100% flesh, you see them all the time mounted when somebody kills a cougar, a bear, a tiger, something that's real, right? They're mounted. They have the heads. Where's the head
Absolutely.
where's the head of a Bigfoot, and where's the head of the Dogman? This is to the person that said that they don't believe it's in the spiritual. So if it was real in the flesh, where's the bodies? There's zero bodies anywhere. But the only thing there
You know,
is is this hoax videos and pranks that people play on people. But there's no bodies. Well, I'm bringing you why there's no bodies. I'm bringing the spiritual aspect of what they are. And sometimes I understand people don't want to understand, but where's the bodies? For the people that believe they're 100% flesh, where's the bodies of this Bigfoot Dogman? I see people that do cast. Anybody can do a cast. I can go out there and find a spot that looks like a foot and do a cast, which would look like a foot. But where's the bodies? That's a bigger question. If they were real, I remember I ran into a den of dead animals out there in the Elms Grove. There was dead dogs. There was a Saint Bernard ripped from the spine. Something ripped it from the spine. A fresh kill. There was a fresh kill of a like a Doberman with the spine ripped. There was dead cats, and there was bones of these dead animals. Which that would say there's a predator in the area, and there was confirmed kills of dead animals that were in that den. That's why I say to you, if you believe that they're 100% flesh, where's the evidence or the proof of a body of a Dogman, Bigfoot, and etc.? But that's just my point.
now my thoughts on that are usually like in some of these cases or encounters, if y'all, from what Abe was saying, y'all need to check out Monster 911 channel with Atlantis High Tower. He's got a lot of cases on there where people were attacked or killed, or they killed a Bigfoot or Dogman, and these secret agencies or government officials, whoever they are, operation teams came in, and they never tell anybody what their names are, what department of the government they come from. But they come in, they confiscate these bodies, or they take the people to jail, or they tell them you saw a bear, you saw this, or it was an unknown canine attack, or all these different things that they come in and tell them. So when they're taking these bodies back, now some they have taken these dead bodies of these dogman out of there and to some unknown facility. Sometimes they've taken some in alive, from what I've heard. Now, whether this is true or not, like we don't know because we weren't there when it happened. But I do think that happens too. But like we just don't know. Like so, y'all just understand. Like when we do these shows, we're just bringing these different aspects. Some of the things that don't get discussed on some other shows, because it should get to a point. Like I said Wednesday, should get to a point where these discussions are more for you than just entertainment purposes. Because what if you ever encounter one? You need to be aware of all the different aspects of these creatures.
Yeah,
Abe's
when I was
Al Sanriga said this planet is much older than science has said it is. It has also been so much more advanced than we are today. I
when I
think
was
it's probably.
oh,
No, I'm just gonna say I agree. I mean, I think it's older than 6,000. I
yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
what were you gonna say?
When I was in the battle of Medina Ridge. It was the biggest tank battle out there in Operation Desert Storm, and I was in the front line. So we had to stay in place where we were like maybe like 400 meters away from all the enemy that we killed, right? Which there was a lot of confirmed kills. There was burning tanks, there was soldiers that were coming out of the ground that died and stuff like that. So we had to stand in place in the front lines for about 3 days. You know, there was no body bag detail yet, so you got all this different nasty smell around you, and you're right there with all the burning enemy tanks and all this. So what I witnessed out there, dogs, dogs came. You could hear them eating. Eating, fighting each other, eating the dead bodies that were out there, right? They were eating, and then I could feel like when I would take me a little nap, I could feel something growling by my neck. So one day I just left
Can
my
y'all
gear on, and I want to know what was it that was by my neck. It sounded like something with breathing. I was spiritual even then, so I just did the sign of the cross because to me it was something heavy, something breathing. Then one evening I felt something. I got on my sleeping bag and I seen it coming at me. It was a big old white dog coming at me, and I went at it, and he lunged at me. It was going for my neck. I hit it, and I hit it several times, and it took up running away from me. So people heard the commotion. They couldn't see because it was so pitch dark that you need night vision goggles to see. So I fought this dog. So they found out they were trying to find out what happened. I told them this dog tried to attack me, tried to come for my neck. So the following day, they killed all those dogs that were out there that were eating those. There was dogs with big old bellies, where they had eaten the human flesh out there. That's what I've been there, brothers and sisters. The sound of these animals eating human flesh is nasty. I was just praying for the dead bodies that were out there. After that, they had a body bag detail to go collect all the confirmed kills from the ground. It was people that from our companies that made a detail to collect all his bodies and put them in body bags, parts or whatever it was left of them. That's a body bag detail. That's why I say to y'all, I know how it is coming from the physical standpoint of somebody dying and getting eaten by an animal, because I heard it, I've seen it when I was out there in Operation Desert Storm, and that's not a good feeling. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, but that's how it is in combat, But it happened. I witnessed this in that sense of a way, when they said that somebody dies, there is animals that have the capabilities to kill people a certain way. You got cougars, you got mountain lions, you got bears. They have the capabilities to devour somebody and leave them chunks of pieces of meat off of them. That doesn't necessarily mean they got killed by a bigfoot or a dogman, but they could have gotten killed by a predator. You got coyotes, you got different animals that have those abilities. Pack of wild dogs that might have rabies. Their mindset is fully. That's another question is, if the dogman and bigfoot were this kind of animals and they had a rabid mentality, there would be bodies everywhere. There would be bodies in every town. There would be a dead body every day. But that's not what's happening. There's not a dead body every day. Something that runs in a group or in a pack. If it was something real, you'll have confirmed kills in that nature daily. If that's their whole mission of killing, there'll be a kill every day. But that's not what's happening. It's more of how should I say, planned out kills that are happening. And I know some people believe a certain way, but spiritually aspect, imagine this: at least something that's a predator, an animal. If you see it, you can kill it, like a wildcat, a cougar, a grizzly bear. You can kill it if you have a weapon. But imagine this: when we talk about an unseen force or a supposedly super soldier, imagine it can attack you without you even seeing it, and it's going to come at you invisibly to destroy you, to attack you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, that when it hits, it's going to hit you unexpectedly. That you're not even going to know what hit you. That's harder, by being attacked by something like that than something that you have the ability to defend yourself.
I want to bring up. Let me see. Now, I'm going to say this. When it comes to this stuff, y'all understand at the end of the day, whether they are flesh and blood, whether they are Nephilim, whether they are, whatever they are. I do know that Scott Carpenter was working on the Sasquatch genome study along with Melba Ketchum. And when he was working with her on that study, they did the DNA evidence. They had hair samples, saliva samples, and all that. And you can Google that and look it up. And I think actually Melba Ketchum did an episode on World Bigfoot Radio with Duke Sullivan, who's right here in the comments tonight. And like on her study, basically she said that she found the Dogman was part human, part canine, and part unknown. I've had people to question me before and say, "Well, part unknown just because it's part unknown. What makes you say that it's Nephilim DNA? Does anybody have a Nephilim in a laboratory anywhere to be able to say that it's Nephilim? What if it's alien DNA? What if it's this or what if it's that?" But then y'all don't want to hear my answer on that because I have my theory that I don't being a Christian. Like I said, I've fallen short and I'm not 100% like I should be right now. But I will say I don't think that aliens are they're told what we're told they are either. I don't think that they're from other planets. I think that they're from right here in this dimension. I think they're
They
right
said they
here in this
have
dimension. I think they can also appear as different things.
they said they
That's
have
just my
saliva
thoughts.
sample, hair sample, and what DNA sample. Where's the body?
Hair, saliva, and blood sample.
And where's the body?
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Where's the
but
body?
they didn't bring them in, but they didn't bring
Wouldn't
them in then though. They
wouldn't a
didn't.
body be more sufficient evidence for everybody, for all of us that are trying to debate that it was something real? If they got it from a body, where's the body? You know, it's just a story. Because if there's no body to confirm that they're taking it off a body, then it's just a story. You know, but where's the body is a bigger question. You know, like I said, anybody can say something, but you got to show the proof. Where's the body? I have
Let me
pictures from
see real
combat
quick.
that I had to throw away from bodies that were given to me from dead bodies that were confirmed kills from combat. I threw them away because I didn't feel nothing good from those pictures. I threw those pictures away. That's what I'm trying to say. Where's the body? Anybody can say anything. Anybody say they kill an animal or kill a bigfoot dog. Where's the body? You got to have show the biggest proof is a body. Uh, that's the biggest proof to me. You know, the thing about the Nephilim died during the flood. They died. The body was gone since they were part demonic because the Watchers were affiliated with Lucifer. They still have demonic capabilities. They still roam Earth in disembodied form, which means spirit form. You're not going to be able to cash no DNA, not unless if somebody were finding a body of a Nephilim, right? There got to be some evidence of a body where they can get the DNA out of
Hmm.
the Nephilim or the body, the bones, right? That's about the only way.
But
But there are in
but
disembodied
but
form
a
amongst us.
take this in consideration from what I heard from some of the people. There's several people who have hair samples and stuff like that. They got that because it got caught up in their fence or in the barbed wire or like some other thing, some other contraption on the property. Now, the way that Scott Carpenter, from one of his videos and from what I talked to him about when I interviewed him on the show, he said that the reason he got the saliva, he used to take, at one point, he would take candy wrappers out there and he said he would go back and look and he would find that candy wrapper on the ground and he would see like where part of the candy wrapper is missing. And what he started to realize was that it was because they were biting like straight into it. Like they didn't peel the paper off, they bit down into it. Like you might take a banana and peel it back, but then if you didn't peel it back, you just bit straight down into the banana peel. It bit into it like that. So he said that the saliva, there was a lot of times that he would find saliva in that. So that's how he got the saliva from that. Now that's that case. But I want to say one more thing before you go on a about the body. A lot of the time now, when it comes to the bodies, let's just say for the people who have claimed that they've shot one and killed one, and you're out there in the woods and you're hunting, and let's just say DNR or whoever the fish and wildlife, fish and game people are out there, and you call them in, they're not going to let you take the body in because they already. That's my thoughts. They already know about these creatures. I think that they probably got prior protocol that they've been told if one of these things come out to kill somebody, if a call comes in, call this number, and whoever these secret people that come in, they take those bodies away, and they do not. People do not get to take those bodies out of there. Either that, or in some cases, I've heard, and there's been other dogmen and Bigfoot around that came and dragged that body away. So, what do you think in those instances?
Me personally, you know, going to the thing of the canyon stuff. I used to be in the army. We had a little trash bag, but if you left an MRE on the ground, there's so many critters that will come out to eat off that MRE. Raccoons, rats, uh, possums. They'll come. Coyotes will come and eat. So maybe the DNA stuff that they're thinking about is maybe coyotes coming and eating some of that food. You know, that's what they do. Another thing about the government comes and collects a body. I've heard that so many times. But this to bring to the conclusion, everybody wants to show the proof, right? That's why I take my evidence of my videos to show some kind of spiritual proof. If you really want to know the truth, before you call these people to supposedly come get the body that you killed, a body of a dogman, how come you don't take a picture and put it me on the social media or send it to your friends so all these people could have this picture, right? Why don't you do that? What are you afraid of? If you want for people to, everybody wants to say it's 100% real. I know the cryptid community for sure wants to say it's 100% flesh. How come these people that supposedly kill them don't put the evidence out there? That's my bigger question. Or is it just a story that it's being made up? You know, I figured if I had I'm placing my spiritual evidence out there, how they look in beastly form. You could tell they look in beastly form, but they're in spiritual nature. And I'm placing my evidence out there. So how come the people within the cryptid community can place their physical evidence that they're 100% real out there also? I'm placing it out there, and I've gotten a lot of positive things from people, and a lot of haters come at me too because they want to believe it's 100% flesh. But you can see the beastly manifestation it takes in my spiritual evidence. You know, so I'm placing it out there, whether people like it or not. I'm placing my evidence out there because I'm trying to help the community. I'm trying to bring understanding to what we're dealing with. If somebody has that kind of evidence that's listening to here on Sister Bettina Moss group, or show me the evidence and messenger, show me the evidence that is 100% real, you know. But I'm still going to continue to do the works that I do if you show me something, because of what I went through. It shows me that it's more of a spiritual being that has the capabilities to manifest, you could say shapeshift, right? But it's more of a manifestation that it can change to 24. It can
Mm-hmm.
change into the form of one of your loved ones. You could go in a group of people and you could change the form into somebody that might be in the group, and then you got the saying it's a double hanger or something like that. But they have the abilities
Yeah.
to mimic voices also because they can read your
Mm-hmm.
mind. So they know what your worst fear is. They know what your strength is, so they can read your mind. So it's kind of like they have the upper hand over us in a sense of a way. But if you go in there and with a spiritual perspective and you're maintaining your love and that you protect yourself, you're able to see through a spiritual law. They have to identify themselves, so they're going to identify themselves. They're going to make their presence known. That's why I catch all these disembodied voices of the growlings, them talking a different language, or the pictures that I place. I take the screenshots off my live videos and I place them up there so people can see how they look visually. And some of those pictures that look like Dogman, some of those pictures that look like Bigfoots, but they're doing it in a spiritual kind of way. I'm just placing my evidence out there, you know, compared to, like I said, if there's a dead Bigfoot or a body, show me the picture, you know. That's why uh, I do the works that I do.
Um, Real quick, and to speaking on what you were saying, real quick, as far as like bringing in the body. Now, for the times when there's not some agency that comes in, do you really think? And just my thoughts on this, I really feel like that at the deeper levels of the government, where there's the media, when it comes to pictures, you know how hard it is. Like you and I have shared pictures before in the groups and stuff like that, and people are always seeking and out to debunk. A lot of the times, I think that there's been a lot of alien and UFO videos that were real, and a lot of Bigfoot and Dogman videos that were out there that came out that were real too. Just like that Patterson, a lot of people came out and said that was a hoax. but then you have people, a lot of people who believe, okay, that was real. So you're going to have that aspect too. So a lot of things that come out on video that we're told is a hoax, a lot of times it's not a hoax. You probably had people tell you that, and I know I have. I'm like, why would I hoax you on something like this? I'm not getting paid for it. Like, who has? I mean, I'm not going to say people haven't done that, but it's a cover up.
Yeah, I think people are afraid to, when they live their lives to be a certain way, they're afraid to look at a different perspective because for those that believe that they're 100% flesh, there's nothing you can show them to make them think it's 100% because that's what they believe in. They've read books, and that's what they believe they're 100%. But when you bring the spiritual aspect, I've seen them spiritually all my life. That they're around spirit. They've been around me since I was a kid because I witnessed them. I witnessed them all throughout my life. I just haven't witnessed them. I witnessed demons where they take form of people and they'll come to me and say certain things that only I know. So that's when I know what I'm dealing with. Spiritually, it's just like they can manifest to look like I've seen them in the military a lot. That manifest themselves to look like a soldier, pretend to be a soldier, but then they come and tell you something. It's a complete stranger. It'll tell you something that only you know that might have happened when you were a kid, and you're like, wait a moment, who is this person? How do they know this? I never met him before, but I've always been spiritual, so I already know when it's something negative they're trying to tell me, that I know that it's something demonic. So I remember one time I grabbed the hand of one when he was praying for me. It was supposedly a chaplain praying for me in a different language that I didn't understand. It was in English or Spanish. And normally they don't do prayers. Chaplains normally don't do prayers in the military. He was saying something in a whole different language. So I started saying the Our Father, or holding supposedly his hands, or the manifestation of his hands, right? Holding them. I started saying the Our Father, and he pulled away. I said, why is he pulling away by me saying the deliverance prayer? Praying to the Our Father. And he
Mm-hmm.
took off real fast out of the tent. I was in a medic tent. Next thing you know, they say it was a chaplain of Fort Hood supposedly I was praying with. Then it said chaplain of Fort Hood is here, and he came. It was a different person that looked different. He said, "Are you the guy that had that's sick?" And I said, "Yes, yes, sir." But the chaplain of Fort Hood just visited me, and he's like, "No, I'm the chaplain for Fort Hood." So that's all they can infiltrate. They're amongst us, brothers and sisters. Believe it or not, they're amongst. It could be somebody walking right by you, bumping right by you. You're thinking it's just a regular person. They take forms in this nature.
All
They're
right,
around.
hold
They're
on,
amongst
Abe.
us.
I'm gonna take some more questions. But real quick, I agree with you, Manolite. They're highly intelligent beings, not animals, and I completely agree with that. I don't think that they're animals. Not at all. I don't think that they're regular animals, not whatsoever. They have too much intelligence. And real quick, Abe, Josh just joined in, and I'm gonna take a 5 minute break here in just a second. But y'all, like I said, we're all having a discussion here. We're having a discussion with you guys in the chat, as well as talking about some things on the panel. So you say if you choose to agree with it or not to agree with it. Nobody has all the answers. We're not trying to say that we do. We're just bringing these cryptids and with these creatures, because a lot of us in this field have not only just experienced Dogman or Bigfoot. There's other things that we've experienced too. Abe has a lot of paranormal activity that he's experienced in his home and out in the field. And I've had like a shadow man that show up in here twice. And I don't even like saying that out loud because I feel like sometimes bringing up the name or saying that, just like how Native Americans say they don't want to talk about the S. I don't want to bring this up either because I feel like it has
They'll surface up. They don't want to bring the
more
name of
life
the
to it, but
Wendigo. Yeah.
absolutely. So I'm just saying, like, whatever we tell you, we're telling you, and you can take it with a grain of salt or you can dismiss it altogether. But real quick, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and join Josh Turner in. He's finally joined us on the show tonight. I'm going to add him in, and then I'm going to take a quick break. Let me just greet Josh real quick. Josh, thank you for joining us tonight. How are you tonight?
Good, good.
Can you hear us? We got a
How you
little
doing,
Yes.
brother Josh?
How you doing, Abe?
Alrighty, brother. Turning on some
all right,
Palo
Josh.
Santo.
You just joined on where we left off. And Josh, Josh, real quick, can you see the comments?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I
I
got it
don't know
right
if
next
Josh
to
can
me.
hear me.
Can you
All
hear
right,
me?
Josh. I'm gonna. Yes, I can. I'm taking a 5 minute break, but when we left off, we were talking about like Abe was saying, like as far as like telling them about the studies that what was it? Scott Carpenter and Melvin Ketchum were doing as far as bringing in the DNA and stuff like that. They had the DNA results and what those DNA findings were on the Sasquatch genome project. About some of the cases where you had these secret agencies to come in and take these bodies away. Abe was saying is that for the ones who say that they've got the DNA and they've proven what are, he was saying why is there no body? Why isn't there a body? So if y'all can discuss that real quick. And Abe, you just fill him in. You tell him what you think about it, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. But Josh, go ahead and say your thoughts on that and pick up from there.
I mean, that's pretty simple because they don't have bodies.
That's what I'm. Yeah, because we was talking about how they said they got confirmed kills and all this stuff. You know, I tell them when I was in the military.
Why do you say they don't have bodies, though, Josh?
Well, to me, it's not that they don't have bodies. They can do things. I mean, you know, they can manipulate things around them physically, and they can appear as physical. It's funny. I'm in San Antonio right now. I'm at a hotel in North San Antonio. I just got done at the Paranormal conference here in San Antonio, and it was at the Black Swan Inn, a notoriously haunted place.
Oh.
And I went in there, and I could feel the energy when I was in there. And Ken Gerhard was there. He spoke because he's a local. He's San Antonio, and so he spoke at the conference. And he actually, I was walking up to it, and it was from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. So I just made a quick appearance, but he was actually talking about Dogman when I walked up. Like that was what he was on that subject, and he mentioned me in the Paranormal Roundtable. And I walked up, and I was kind of standing there, and there was a bunch of people there, and it was outdoors because the house is closed off except for the front, but you can feel it. But somebody lives there, and I guess she's the one that put the conference together. And there was a lot of weird energy at that place, and there were lots of vendors, lots of people. I wouldn't say as many people as we had at our conference, Abe, but there was quite a few people. And after as Ken spoke, a bunch of people went to his setup, you know. And I got a story tonight from a lady who saw something down in the valley, and her and her husband were there. I think it was her husband, and they were talking to me and Ken about it. And she was talking about this creature having a very short snout. She's going to send me the audio that she's told the story, and then I can play it on my show.
Where in the valley, Josh?
Oh, gosh, she said it was. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Raymondville.
Harlingen, Lyford.
Oh no. Go ahead, keep naming because that's not.
Los Fresnos, McAllen, Edinburgh, San Juan,
San Juan,
Rio Grande, Westlaco, Mercedes.
Not Harlingen.
Hargill.
Away.
San Manuel.
Going. Hold on one second. Hey, Anthony or Nelly. One of them probably knows. I think my wife might be able to tell you. But they're a couple, and they saw this creature that looked like. She's going to send me an audio clip of that night. So, hey, I know you probably don't, but do you remember the name of the city? The people that were talking to me, Ken and Ann, and you, the couple we met.
Gerald.
No, it was down in the valley. No. I got to look at a map. I'll find it. Hold on. Yeah, because I got literally just.
Yeah, that's fine. The valley. So they say it had a short snout.
Yeah, like short, but she said that it had straight legs, and that it looked greenish. Listen to this, greenish black. That's crazy. Like that part right there struck me as odd. She said that it looked kind of like a Bigfoot, but she said it didn't look ape-like. And so when she said kind of like a Bigfoot, but didn't look ape-like, and then Ken said Gugwe, you know, and then we just kind of went from there. But let me look at the map real quick. Map. And she showed me on her phone, too, and I can't remember because there was so many people trying to talk to me. I met a very interesting author there, too. And me and her kind of hit it off. And I'm going to have her come on the show. Map of Texas. Let's see, Rio Grande Valley. And she said that when she had the sighting, it was back. I think she said it was back in 2007, and she was really young. But it was a very interesting case. And then her husband had encounters with Lechusa.
Yeah.
Like years, he said, and
Yeah.
know what they were. Look at the map here. So she showed me on the map. When I see the name,
When you're talking about green, it reminds me of a story that my grandfather told me. He was a fisherman. He would go fishing in Port Mansfield, and his boat. It was a hurricane coming through, and he was still out there, and his boat flipped. So he was probably like 10 miles away from the shore. You could see the lights by the shore. So he was swimming, and the waves were real high going. And next thing you know, he said he hears his wife calling him from the waves, and she's got her hands open, and it's her supposedly calling him, but it's no way it's her because she had already passed away many years ago. So he made it to shore safely, and they kept following him, telling him to come with him. But it was in the form of his wife, which would be my grandmother.
Mm.
Well, he went home, and he was at home. He said that whatever that was out there followed him home, and it tried to drag him out the window. It was like half his body was out the window. It was pulling him from the feet, and it was in the form of my grandmother. Some kind of shapeshifter, but from the ocean. I mean, I don't know if there's bees like that, but I'm more sure if there's capabilities like that on land, they have capabilities like that in the ocean.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But whatever it was that kept on coming at him, he had a shotgun by his bed and everything. Kept on trying to take him every night. Would come and try to take him, try to take him. But he would tell my mom and my aunts, and I was there, and you could tell he was scared, where something was coming every night trying to take him. And he was like, it would take that form, but I remember him saying that story to us.
And it was something from the ocean?
From the ocean, yes. Because his boat had flipped. He was a fisherman, and he was trying to make it back to shore. He was swimming back to shore because he had totally flipped upside down. So he was swimming to shore, and he heard his name being called. He knew his name, and it was her trying to tell him to come with her. And he made it safely back to shore, but then he followed him to his house. But I don't know if there's a anything that can do that. When you say greenish, it kind of reminds me of something like the story of my grandfather would say. The waters there in the Gulf of Mexico are real dark waters, like dark.
Oh, yeah. I don't see these names aren't jogging my memory here.
You got Brownsville.
Yeah, No, it's not Brownsville. I want to say it was going toward Far, but I'm not sure if that's correct.
Yeah.
She said it was she gave me the highway too, but there was so many people trying to talk. I talked to like probably a dozen people and got like at least 6 really good stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity over there, Brother Josh, in South Texas. I mean, if you think the activities up here are bad, when you go into the valley, it's a lot worse, man, because you can feel it. I don't know if it's a change of elevation or what, because it's closer to the ocean. That's where I grew up. But the spiritual activity is pretty hot and heavy. What I found out in my town was that the foundation of the town was all limestone. So there's a lot of limestone during the Rio Grande Valley because it's close to the ocean, in which that can cause a lot of paranormal activity. The limestone itself.
Oh yeah.
Like the limestone from creeks, where people are witnessing some of this Dogman or Bigfoots, that could cause paranormal activity. Or when they talk about the lakes, there's limestone within the lakes, can cause stuff like that. Can't take out the limestone effect, out of the equation.
That's why Austin there's limestone quarries all around Austin.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird. I can't. I don't want. I think I know where it's at, but I don't want to say it for sure.
You just whenever you do, just let me know, brother. Whenever you find out.
Yeah, I'll talk about it on the show for sure once I get the information from them. But it was interesting just going there and meeting some people that have had experiences and stuff. And the Black Swan is definitely a very powerful paranormal hotspot, and it definitely gave off a vibe. When you walk in that building, boy, it's like some hits you like right away. And I guess there's been several deaths there, 2 suicides.
Oh wow!
Well, the owner, she was telling Ken that her daughter sleeps, on the top floor where she sleeps. The attic right above her houses a very evil presence, and I'm like, your daughter sleeps right below that? Like, I mean, if it was me and it was somebody, I mean, I'm not going to talk bad about somebody, but I don't know her that well. But I mean, I wouldn't let my daughter sleep below a very evil presence.
So what's the backstory to this location? Like, was it just a motel or?
No, it was a what do you call it? Just like an inn,
Oh, an inn.
One time, I guess people actually could go there and like sleep there or whatever. I guess it was on a stagecoach route. That's what some people were telling me. I didn't get to talk to the owner myself, but Ken did. And so when we were there, there was like the upstairs was cordoned off, and they had the front part of the house, a huge house, and you could walk around the front area, and then you could go down this hallway that wrapped around the front, and then that room at the end, they called it the portal room because I guess it's so powerful. Like the haunting there is so powerful. And I walked in there, and my wife felt nauseous, and I got like an instant headache. And I was just like, and it was very hot. It was cool. And then you walked into that room, and it was just hot. And I was just like, okay, this is not good. So we didn't stick around. And there was a lady in there talking about it and what, the history of it. And I heard murder, suicide. I'm like, that's great. That's probably why it was. Then
that's why the activity is there.
Oh yeah. I mean, and then there's like several acres, and there was a lot of people, like vehicles and stuff there. And so we had to park and kind of walk up to it, and there were tons of vendors there. Like there were less speakers than there was at my conference, but there was more vendors, and there was a ton of vendors, and they were selling all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people there were witches. Like I could see like a lot of the tables.
Yeah. I'm thinking that room that you're talking about, they could have possibly used it for, what do you call it, channeling or chanting, where they have the person with the globe, what that tells them, talks to the spirits. Maybe that room was used something in that nature. That's why it's so hot and heavy.
Well, one of the speakers that came on after Ken, because I got there like in the middle of Ken's presentation, and so somebody that was on right after him was actually talking to a spirit. Like it was not the next person after them were the paranormal putas. And actually, a couple of sisters. Yeah, it's crazy, right? But they're actually pretty cool. And I found out that one of them, I had met her at Toy Joy, which is an Austin toy shop or whatever. And me and my wife had gone in there. My wife used to collect these little Tokidokes or whatever, Tokidos. Forgot what they're called. But anyway, she would collect those. And so we would go to the toy store and look for them. They're like in blind bags or whatever. And we met one of those ladies there. And she was like telling me how she wanted to start a podcast. And she started listening to mine. And lo and behold, I go over there to introduce myself to them. And she's like, yeah, I know you. She's like, you're the guy. You should come to and I listened to your show and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, crap. And my wife was like, I thought she looked familiar, but it's her and her sister. And they're Mexicanas from East Austin. And so, whatever. It's paranormal putas, it's like whatever.
But, yeah, that's probably where there was a lot of activity, man, because, so many people that practice so many things and you don't know what to mess with. That they got that energy around them also, so it could even cause more activity in that place where somebody's committed suicide,
And the barn, like they said there was a stable, then there was a milking place where it was all part of one big, farm at one time. And so we went around and the one side, and they had them all set up like shops. You know, you could go in there and buy stuff from them. And when we were going to walk to the stable, and my wife just goes, I don't want to go in there. And I was like, why? And then as I got closer, you know, to go to it, there's like this entrance, like you have to go underneath this like walk. And I told her, I said, that thing looks like a portal. I was like, I don't want to walk through there. And we got a really bad energy from it. And so we didn't go to the stables. And then when we come back, and Ken and Ann are sitting there, and Ken was like, yeah, they say that there's something evil, like demonic over there by the stables. And I was like, yeah, no crap. I could feel it. I mean, I was like, that's why I didn't go.
So your wife could sense it. There's something good, not good there.
Yeah. She was a few feet ahead of me. She was kind of walking, and I was looking down, you know, and then she said something, and I just felt something negative. And then she said it right then. And we both were kind of, you know, but she felt it before I did because I was kind of preoccupied. But yeah, definitely that, and then the other back, the housing area in the back, whatever. I just didn't want to mess with it. But it's a really nice place. If it got restored, it would be beautiful, like you can tell. But it does look like a place where there would be Dogman and Bigfoot activity. And one of the things I remember when I got my bearings and I realized where we were at, you know, in that North San Antonio corridor, I know that there have been Dogman and Bigfoot sightings both in that area. And I was thinking that place looks like it would be full of just all kinds of stuff. I mean,
well, like a demonic portal, man. Of course, they're going to have all kinds of activity.
Like a hellmouth. You know?
Yeah, that's what it is.
San Antonio, to me, is, and it's got all that limestone there too, just like Austin. And I do believe, I was talking to James Bartley the other day from Australia, and he was talking about, you know, some of these places being so demonically charged that it is like a hellmouth, kind of like on Buffy, you know, the vampire.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called. But yeah, it's really weird. So I met a lady there too, because we all kind of got separated at one point. My wife was looking for water, which they were giving away free alcohol. But
man.
No water.
Well, shoot, with alcohol, you're really going to see stuff.
So I declined the free alcohol. I just wanted some water. And then we went back and Anthony found some water. But that was the first part of it, was just the quest for that. And then, but I started talking to this one lady, and she gave me a vampire story. And she says, she's like, I heard you saw a werewolf. And I guess somebody that had been talking to Ken when they asked him about Paranormal Roundtable, whatever. So then they come up to me, and I'm sitting there talking to this lady, and it's about her shop or whatever. And she sells like these little tumblers and, you know, little, you know, chingoletas, whatever. And I was looking for my wife, and then I started walking down the hill coming back, you know, and I was sitting there talking to these two people, and they were talking about vampires. And the one lady came up to me, and she's like, I heard that you saw a werewolf. And I said, when I was 15, yeah. So I gave a little bit of the story. And the one lady that was sitting there talking to me, I think her name was, it's funny, I think her name was Annabelle. And I know that sounds weird because that name Annabelle, or, you know, so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her, kind of both trying to talk to me. And it's kind of hard having two conversations. But the one lady, she goes, I don't know if I believe in werewolves, but I've seen a vampire. And I said, what did it look like? And so she says, well, the thing I saw, she's like, it didn't look like you would think like a vampire. She goes, and I was like, why do you think it was a vampire? And she didn't tell me why she thought it was a vampire. And she gave me a kind of a brief description. And then like some people came up to buy some stuff. So I walked off because I saw my wife. But I wanted to go back over there. And then I went back over there. There was more people. So I didn't get to finish getting the story. But there was just so many people around telling some stories that it was crazy. But a lot of, you know, the stories and things, it was ghost based, but they were very interested in the cryptids, you know, and I noticed that Ken got a lot of people that came up to his table because a lot of people were coming up and saying, I've seen this cryptid type thing, you know, and they were talking, and I was kind of standing there, and Ken kept referring Dogman people to me. And I was surprised at how many people were coming up and saying that they had seen a wolf-like creature or a Bigfoot type creature, or even one person saying they saw a chupacabra. And I was like, what makes you think that it was a chupacabra? Just like the people from the valley. And I'm sure that they'll get in touch with me because I gave them information.
Telling you, there's a lot of things down in the valley that, like I said, all that. Well, that's where I grew up, so I've seen a lot of things where I grew up. I left the valley and I never went back. I joined the military and I stayed here in Central Texas because the activity that's over there is out of the ordinary, man. There's so much activity, spiritual activity in the valley. Like I said, I'm thinking it's because it's the limestone that's there. It's a conductor,
Yeah.
and all these manifestations appear. La Llorona, Llorona, and
Are you Belton, Temple, Killeen? Where are you at?
I live in Temple right now. I used to be in Killeen for 20. Let me see, for like 50. Let me see, 10 for about 16 years. What's it on?
Well, that's out of the fat end of the fire because that place has a lot of weird activity.
So I live in Temple now, but there's limestone up here too, so there's all kinds of activity happening. But that's one of the reasons I never went back to the valley, because the feeling that I get when I will go to a funeral, activity is still there. I sense all that. I see it. Whether I'm at the funeral home or at the cemetery, burying one of my relatives. There's activity there. It's just I just have to leave because I can't be there because I'm like a conductor, and they just come at me. So I had to leave the valley. That's why I never went back. That's my hometown. But and it's hot as hell down there in South Texas.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't go back.
It used to be the hub for citrus fruits, grapefruit.
Oh yeah.
All the freezes that happen. I think and I'm going to say something that may shock people or sound weird, but I think the government had a lot to do with it. I think that they use, this weather manipulation, and I think that they caused freezes that were unnatural there.
Yeah, there was things that they were doing. The government. There's a lot of mosquitoes, so there was sending the smoke down the streets, but the smoke had something in them that it started. A lot of people got sick. Some were having hallucinations. They brought cancer. The old pipelines had what is that that causes cancer? That's within the plastic pipes.
Oh, PVC.
Yeah, but there's a certain name to it that
Parabens?
A lot of people. Huh?
You're talking about parabens?
Like what is it called? I can't remember the name of the thing that those pipes are, but they had to rebuild the whole water plant and everything because they had that in it. That people were getting cancer. There was another thing that was flying up because there's a lot of crops. So there was this airplane that would fly and drop poison and stuff like that. That was causing hallucinations and side effects also. So there's a lot of people that got affected in many ways down there. At one time it was nothing but agriculture there, but now when you go to the valley, the agriculture, there's some agriculture, but not like it used to be when I was growing up. It's more civilized now, I guess you could say. And you a lot of people that work in the fields all their lives.
Are you looking for the official name of the poison in the plastic that causes it?
Yeah.
It's called polyvinyl chloride.
Yeah, I think they had another name for it also. I just can't remember the top of it. Sometimes it was in the old houses, like in the military, in the mortar pools, where we had the mortar pool guard.
Oh, okay. You're talking about asbestos.
There we go, asbestos. The asbestos.
Yeah, that's not plastic, but that
Yeah, the mortar pools, the guard shacks. We put guard. They had those in there, so they brought down the guard shacks. They dropped down a lot of the billets because they had the asbestos and had lead in the paint. So there were some soldiers that committed suicide, man. There within the Fort Hood when I got there because of that, because of hallucinations and all kinds of side effects, health problems.
This guy says that these beings are intelligent. They can dig graves for their dead. Why do you believe that they dig graves for their dead? That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, there's been a lot of people to come out and say that they've seen these Bigfoot or Dogman. I don't know. There's people who say that they've actually found some of the graves, and that say that what was it, like Joe Barger, for instance? Remember, he said that when he turned around, remember he was the one who shot the Dogman when it was trailing him or chasing him down the road or whatever, keeping pace with his big rig on this small country road. And when he it stuck his head through the window and he shot it in the face and he watched it roll down the hill and it died, he turned around when he got to a certain point down the road and was able to turn around, when he went back, that's when he said there were two people standing on the side of the road outside of the Jeep looking into the woods. And he didn't want to tell them that he had just saw what he thought was a werewolf. But he sat there and asked them, was everything okay? And they told him, we just saw two bears drag another bear off into the woods. And I've heard other cases like that as well. Now, I don't know about burying, but I have heard a few people that, but you don't hear those stories too often. But I've even heard people say that they eat their own dead, and I don't know about that or not. But, I like to say, too, when people say, well, bringing in a body, I really don't think that even if you had a body and you tried to drive it down to the news station, if these agencies didn't show up at that time on the scene, I really don't think you're going to get that far with that body, because they're not going to allow it. And if you do get down there with a body and are able to produce that body, it's going to be put out as a hoax.
Mm-hmm. That's just like the picture.
They're going to say it's a costume. Yeah. They're going to say it's a hoax. They're going to say it's a costume. They're going to say it was a real for some movie or something like that. So there's a lectors there. If they don't want that information out, you can, if you actually are able to actually get the body down there and not have that body taken away by another one of the creatures that are there or around, because when there's one, there's more. Then you're not going to get too far with that, and they're going to try to debunk it because they don't want this out. Look how long it took them to finally admit that aliens are real, and that's my thoughts on it. But I feel like that's one of the factors with it. Look at all the unknown attacks, unknown canine attacks. With that, why are they can't, if when it comes to DNA and stuff like that, can they not tell you what breed a dog it is? Like if you take your dog to the vet, they can tell you specifically down to exactly what breed. If it's German Shepherd, Pit Bull, Rottweiler, whatever, they can tell you that. Or if it's a canine, if it's a wolf, if it's a coyote. But they can't tell you like what this unknown canine is in a lot of these attacks. Corey Godsey, the 13-year-old boy out of Kentucky. You got Brenda Hamilton out of North Carolina, and Cobb County, Tennessee, last year, 2021. Those are cases of unknown canine. What are these unknown canines?
Yeah, I heard about the case, and then I read through some of people, because I always read the comments, and they said that the parents of the boy, that they would fight pit bulls, right? So the kid went to where the pit bull was to feed it, and the pit bull attacked him, and that's how he really got killed, was by the pit bull. But when you train a pit bull to fight, they don't know nothing about peace. They feed them raw meat, they build muscle on them by dragging weight, so they're strong. But that's what a person said that knew the family, that the pit bull killed the little boy and dragged them up the hill. But they didn't want the people to know what really happened.
In that case, but do you realize that in that case that boy's body was dragged 1,500 feet straight up a hill, up an embankment? And basically, in that case, there's several different things that's wrong with that, because
I've seen a pit bull pretty strong that they could climb it. Oh.
But when he came in and the body was taken up that hill, and then I'll let you, I just got to say this so I won't forget, but that body was taken up that hill. They had already searched that area multiple times. And when they searched the area, they had already searched it. The body not there. They came, and then it started storming. They came back the next day. And when they came back the next was there, that body, the marks or whatever that was left on the body, they were saying it was like extremely just to the point where they were saying that it shouldn't, no natural, I don't know what kind of predators they have there in Kentucky in that area. But it was just a lot of things that didn't go together with it. And that's just his case. But go ahead, Abe.
How old was the boy that died? He was young, wasn't he?
13.
13.
I wonder how much he weighed.
It said 100 and something pounds.
Yeah, because I've known pit bulls. Well, I had a friend that would train them like that for fighting, and they could drag a lot of weight. I mean, you'll be surprised how strong they are. And when you took them off the weights, they could literally climb a tree all the way to the top, like nothing but pure muscle. climb a tree with their muscle. That's how strong they are. But that's just something that I had read when I read all the comments, and that's what a person said that the
Now,
boy had got killed by a pebble. But I don't know.
This person Lojo says, Chris. She was answering
well, you
Christine.
also know in the Cobb County. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Josh. No, go ahead.
No, it was no big deal. I was just, she was commenting about, she said a trucker killed a dogman in Manistee, Michigan. And she says, true, that was Joe Barger. And Joe Barger's story, she said, somebody named Lojo said that it's on What Lurks Beneath, which is our friend and colleague, Josh Ninocchio. He was also on my show. And when I want to talk about that, when he came on my live stream after the conference last year, and I know you remember this, Bettina, the stream was interrupted. We had 732 people or something like that in the chat. And that's a lot of people to be in a chat. The stream got cut. And then when we finally got it back on, it was like in two parts. It really messed it all up. We only were able to get about 500, 600, something like that. So we lost like 150 people from that. And it was very weird the way that the stream was interrupted. The other time that we had that happen was with Martin Groves. And it kind of reminds me. And so when Lance Hightower, he came to the conference, and you guys were there, but I took Lance off to the side and said, look, Ken showed me what you were going to talk about on here. And I was like, kind of don't really want you to talk too much about that because it's going to cause some issues. And what he was talking about was literally, and I know you got one of the papers, Bettina, you probably did too, Abe, because y'all were speakers. But it says on that paper, like what everybody's going to talk about. He was talking about interference in communication when relaying stories of the paranormal / cryptid. And I told him, I said, that's going to come true because you're going to talk about it. And so me and Christopher Jordan, he's a big MUFON UFO guy, and Jordan was kind of like, and I can imitate the way he talks. He's like, there's probably going to be some interruptions with that, And he does that. And I was like, and I was sitting there going like, you're probably right. So I went to Lance and Lance goes, well, I'll just touch on it a little bit. And I said, you're very eager, Lance. I could tell you want to touch on it a little more. I said, but do what you got to do. But let's talk about Dogman and whatever. And so I didn't want to tell him what to talk about. And I felt bad. Even having to do that, but I didn't want there to be some kind of weird, bull crap that went on. And it's not Lance's fault. He's trying to bring the truth, And sure enough, he gets up there, but he talks about it. I was in the back kind of watching, and kind of feeling like, okay, I hope something weird doesn't happen. So he talked about it for about 20 minutes and then he moved on. And that was, but it sucks that we have to sit here and regulate ourselves because, the powers that be will do it for us if we are talking about something that they don't think we should be talking about.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, you remember if when I came in and completely commandeered the computer, started like removing several of the comments, the whole back chat on Messenger, the admins and moderators are like, I'm not doing that. Like they're going back and forth. Then I got knocked out of the feed. And I mean, and when we're talking about really deep stuff, and this is you as well, like when you've gotten kind of in deep, Josh, on some of the deeper stuff I told you. In fact, it happened to you about a couple of months ago, and I told you, I think I had messaged you before the show. I said, oh, you're getting ready to talk about this tonight. I said, don't be surprised if if the feed and you got knocked out of the feed that night. And I told you, now talking about that there live, that was the perfect time for him to be talking about that. But at the same time, it probably was some agents out there in the audience, but that was the best time for that. And if you ever have them on the show, then you just make sure there's a pre-recorded show because they're going to come in again. Same thing happened when I had Hapner on the show. I got knocked out of my feed for over 20 minutes. And he had just got ready to start talking about the Sasquatch Genome Project. So I missed 30 minutes of that. Real quick, I want to take Jason Broussard's comment, but he was saying, but the DNA doesn't match any of those animals. So real quick, that's for Abe. The DNA, when it came up like that, it was supposed to be dogs or whatever, natural dog, whatever, the DNA from their stomach was taken, and none of the dogs in that neighborhood of the surrounding, it didn't match them. It didn't match in the Cott County, Tennessee. I think they tested over 88 dogs and had three different um, veterinary forensic scientists to do the DNA autopsy results and all that kind of stuff, and take the DNA out of the dog stomachs. And in those cases, none of the dogs. Again, that was another case of unknown canine. The Cott County, Tennessee case out of, I think Cott County's in Knoxville, Tennessee. Both of those people were killed on the same road. You had
Is it?
Tony Arns, and you had Amber Miller. And Tony Arns, he was found outside of this man's mailbox. The neighbor had seen him out there. I can't remember what the time was, but 3 hours later, he had just seen him 3 hours prior to this. 3 hours later, he finds him outside of his yard at his mailbox, partially eaten. And Amber Miller in that case, on Amber Miller, she was found with 45% of her flesh removed from her body. 45% of her flesh removed. Then she had both arms ripped out at the shoulder with only muscles and tendons holding her arms together. The calf muscles ripped out. And I don't care, like, I'm just thinking about all the all the regular dog attacks. If it's three or four pit bulls, I've never heard of an animal taking somebody. I'm not going to say they can't do it if you can't get a kangaroo or so or something like that that's really strong and muscled up, but maybe a child, maybe even a skinny, emaciated adult. But that wasn't all in that case. Some of the bite wounds in the Amber Miller case alone, the men that found her, it wasn't the police or the paramedics that found her body. Found her. It was two passersby that found her out there underneath a tree, bleeding with her arms and leg or whatever, pretty much amputated. They were the ones who took her to the hospital. She slept for over a week after that, but she ended up succumbing to those injuries. Now at the hospital, they said that she was covered with cuts and lacerations all over her body, so many that they lost count at the hospital.
Yeah.
Now, some of those cases, as far as like what she was concerned, I have the autopsy report that was sent to me from the Cott County, Tennessee, like forensic scientists or the forensic coroner's office. And in the Amber Miller case alone, like it's so that I think it's like 11, 12 pages long on her autopsy report. The largest bite mark that was on her body, there was huge ones. It was 15 and a half to like 13 and a half inches. It said that her one of the largest injuries was the upper front thigh area around to the waist, and the upper back, upper butt, and upper back thigh area on that same leg. And it said that it was 15.5 to 13 and a half inches long. Now, 66 tooth impressions were found in on that bite. 66. And when you Google it and look it up, how many teeth does a dog have? How many teeth does a wolf? How many teeth does a bear have? The number was 43. And then to what Abnormal Investigation said on his channel, and I'm not sure where he got this information, but one of the largest footprints, two of the largest footprints ever recorded on record, were found on the scene or whatever where she was, and they were bipedal. So when you take that and then like it's so many different things in this unknown canine, and then you have a FOIA. What is that? A Freedom of Information Act. Well, of a FOIA, like you cannot, if the case is left open, then you cannot ask for a Freedom of Information Act to get the information on that case. The judge put everybody who had anything to do with the police, paramedics, medical staff, everybody was put on a gag order and not allowed to discuss the case, period. What are y'all thoughts on that?
Uh, I mean, pebble fighting is illegal. So I wonder how many people were involved in the illegal ring of pebble fighting. Which if there was some people involved, they probably covered it up because there was going to be a lot of people getting in trouble. Uh, but the one with the woman that you're talking about, how long was she missing? How many days was she out there? Because if she was out there for a long period of time, like days or weeks, then there's a lot of animals that do come out and they eat whatever's dead on the ground. How long, or did it just happen like right off the bat within an hour, 2 hours,
She
uh,
wasn't.
3 hours? How long was the time frame from her injuries? That's what I'm trying to ask. from how she was found.
I think
How many
they
days
found
was
her
she
the same
missing?
day
Or
she was attacked. Yeah, no, they found her the same day she was attacked. I think within minutes of the attack, within maybe 10, 15 minutes of the attack. But also at the same time, like as far as dog attack is concerned, they tested over 88 dogs in the area, and all the dogs came up negative for any human DNA or flesh in their body. Even that
yeah, because
school teacher out of North Carolina.
I heard about
Go,
the woman that had the three German shepherds that they turned on her in her home and killed her, and they found her all shredded up. You know where the German shepherds were eating her. I heard about that story maybe this past year, uh, but it was her own German shepherds that killed her.
when we need to do So what we need to do, I guess, in trying to determine some of this stuff when it comes to the unknown canine attacks, because it'll always be bait. But what we need to do is take it and take the different factors within those cases that are outside the realm of usually what's normal. Like in a case where they are like, it was beyond ripped to shreds. It was so gruesome. I can only imagine it wouldn't have been an open casket funeral. You got to take into the 63 teeth impression, something that's got a mouth big enough that reaches around from the upper front thigh, upper waist, upper buttocks, all the way around to the upper thigh on the back side below the butt. That's huge. But not only that, like taking into account the fact that the unknown canine, they should have been able to say, like, so there's some unknown canine that's out there still that they are leaving these cases open. It's still the same, like in that Corey Gotzi case, the 13-year-old boy, and the North Carolina school teacher. They to this still cannot tell you what killed those people, and that's strange. So you have to take like the different factors in there. It's like, wait a minute, this is a vicious attack. It almost seemed like a damn woman. And out of any dog attack that I've ever heard, and I'm not saying it's not possible, but out of any dog attack I've ever heard, I've never heard of one where it ripped somebody's arms and calf muscle out
No,
the socket.
no, that's
Ever.
That sounds more like a mountain lion attack or a cougar,
no,
because
it does because
that's what they do.
yeah,
They attack and they drag the body
up.
up and up to higher ground and then up to a tree or a pole, and they put their body away from the other animals to protect their food. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, it does sound like a
But
cougar
the
attack.
DNA back as canine, though. But the
I
DNA came
know,
back as canine.
which is unusual. I don't personally, I don't believe, and I'm not engaging in fear mongering or trying to sound sensational, whatever. But I don't personally believe that I trained dogs at one time, and I was a handler. I'm going to tell you, 2.5, 3 years. It wasn't like my permanent job, but it was like a side gig. And mastiffs, Belgian Malinois, Bouviers. We trained German Shepherds. We trained Dutch Shepherds. We trained Rottweilers. I worked with a lot of large, vicious breeds. I've had my own encounter with a Caucasian Shepherd that tried to kill me. And I can tell you this right now. I was putting on a bite suit one time, and I had this unstable Roddy mix, and he was new, and he just lunged off of the tailgate, and his handler was looking down, not paying attention, while I was putting on a bite suit. This dog, with no provocation, with no warning, nothing. I was just putting on a sleeve, and I look up, and the dog's name was Hunter, and he just jumped, and the leash was not, the handler wasn't holding it. He was messing with his shin guard, like a shin thing or whatever, and he was, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, not only that, but this is just my personal, I was pissed off because he was doing something stupid. It didn't amount to a hill of crap. And that dog had only been out in the field one other time, and we were there to see if it would be a viable option. And it attacked me. But, as soon as I put my arm up, it went straight for the arm and it just held on. And that is typical of, and that was a dog attack. I've been attacked 3 times by large dogs. I'm not afraid of dogs at all. Like, I have no fear of them. I mean, I respect them, but I'm not afraid of them. Like, if a dog gets unruly or acts out, whatever, I'm not afraid to take it on or deal with it in whatever way. Now, I know people will probably say, "Oh, it's because you're 6'4" and 380 pounds. Of course, you're not afraid." But yeah, that's part of it because you have the size and strength on your side. But even with this 13-year-old kid or this girl, I just cannot see one of those dogs pulling at 150 yards up. It just doesn't make sense. It's not going to go up. I know a lot about dogs, and that's not how they operate. Also, some of the flesh being consumed, that's highly unusual for dogs who are, if they're fighting dogs, are going to be well fed, or if they're dogs that are for protection, whatever, people tend to give them food, like Abe was saying, like raw meat. I mean, but I doubt very seriously they're going to go for a human and try to eat a human. The dogs just don't operate like that.
The only thing I could think of that there was a cougar nearby coming for the dog because that's what they hunt. They hunt dogs and animals, and it just happened for the kid to be there in between them because the cougar probably seen the dog as food, and he took the kid. That's what I'm thinking. Or
they're going to go for the easiest prey. Yeah.
The easiest prey. Yes.
There were no cougar tracks, and it wasn't feline. It was canid, and so that brings up a whole nother weird, and somebody had mentioned in the chat that Mike had covered it from AI. And I remember watching the interview between you and Mike, Bettina, and the interaction about the dog attacks. And that's something I want to do for a future project is get you guys back on. But we add Mike in there and we can go over some of these cases. I think it would be interesting to get a full perspective. And I've actually talked to him about it already. We spoke at length, like maybe a day before I took off for the conference. I think it was Wednesday night, Thursday morning. And we had a long, like hour and a half, 2-hour conversation. And we did talk about him coming on and maybe you and him doing a roundtable discussion because, of course, on Paranormal Roundtable is what we do. And so we can talk about the dog attacks. Because that's just one of many things I want to do. Because that's something that keeps coming up. It's a recurring theme, and it's becoming more prevalent.
It's just so many different places.
Yeah, there's been cattle here in Temple, and cattle in Marlin, Belton area that's been found dead, killed by supposedly a pack of wild dogs or coyotes.
Yeah,
that they're killing the cattle.
Yeah, there was one that was outside of Belton. And when I was at the it's not a rodeo. It's a bull riding event that my friend is also my insurance agent.
The Expo Center.
Yeah. But he had one that was out in the country. I forgot the name of the place. But they do them at the exposition center. Yeah. And the one at the Expo Center they had back in I think June. That was a big one. But I missed that one. I went to the one that's out in the woods. It's way out in the sticks. Next time I go, Abe, I'm going to invite you and your wife so you guys can, because he does it all the time.
Sounds good, brother.
Yeah, one of the bull riders' family members was telling me that they had a prize bull that got chewed up to the point where they had to put it down. And she was like talking to me about coyotes because she had a friend that was at the last bull riding event that I had gone to, which was at Scruggs right outside of my hometown in Taylor, between Taylor and Thrall. And Loki was with me, and he was telling them, because he was wearing the Paranormal Roundtable hoodie, and he was telling these people about my show. One of them was a professional bull rider, and he's actually on the Austin Gamblers. He's actually going to be on a documentary. They're coming out, I think, next month with Amazon Prime, and it follows these bull riders. But one of them was saying that, hey man, I've never seen anything that could take a bull, whatever. But they found their bulls like attacked by something. But one of them was in a pen, and it was in a very small enclosed area where it didn't have that advantage to, like, you know what I mean?
To maneuver, yeah.
Yeah, to maneuver where something could have just chewed on its back. And so they asked me what would do that. And my instant, just the words fell out of my mouth in front of like 15 people. I'm like, a werewolf. So, these people look at me like I'm a baboso, or mentiroso, they're looking at me like, what? Like, these people are quetenes, and what's wrong with you, man? Like, what's wrong?
If it was showing for the neck, it was going to kill it, Yeah. It's going for the jugular.
I mean, what I think happened, though, was the bull was in this small enclosure. This thing could go over the top of it, and if it was getting a free meal by just chewing on its back, and the bull couldn't do anything, I mean, imagine if it was a Dogman, it could just reach over the top. Well, this lady out in Belton was saying that a couple of their cows and one of their bulls had been torn up pretty bad. And she was like, hey, she introduced me to this lady who I had met at Scruggs, and she was saying, yeah, your friend was telling us about your show, and then you said a werewolf. I said, yeah, kind of half jokingly. But then I started talking to them, and they were telling me about one of their bulls getting attacked. Now, what I think could have happened was, and it's something a story that was given to me that it's going to be on my show on Tuesday. But I think that the bull may have been trying to protect the cows, like maybe protect its.
Oh yeah.
And then these animals were able to tear it up pretty good.
It was basically more than one, I think. They could have running in a pack. It had to be more than one to take down a bull.
It would take about 20 of them to take down a bull.
Yeah, they're running big packs around here, man. And I've seen them. When I was on the Fort Hood, I would see them all the time. When I was in the military, but there was one time that I was pulling guard, and I told all the people that were going to pull guard with me to go home, to go take the weekend off, that I would stay there for Friday to Saturday, guard the tanks by myself. So I was out there, I had one of the tanks open, and I was sitting there on top of my tank, I was eating a snack, and next thing you know, I hear growling, and I'm like, what the hell is that coming from? Then I seen them on top of the trees, jumping from tree to tree. There was two of them, what seemed to be cougars, fighting each other. And I'm sitting on top of the tank, and I'm like, what are they fighting for? And then, like a little light bulb turns up for you. So I just jumped in the tank and I closed the hatch and locked it up. But, that's how they get you. They get the higher ground on you, and they jump on you, they attack you. But it was two cougars fighting for me on top of the trees that were above me. Is the tank, we set them up underneath the tree line like a canopy, and they were fighting for me, I guess. And I said, not tonight. I closed the hatch, and that was it. But they were pretty big.
Where was this at?
It was on in Clabber Creek on Fort Hood.
Oh yeah.
When I was in the military, I was left there to pull guard with the two of my soldiers. But I said, you know what? Y'all just go and enjoy your weekend. I felt like I was a sergeant. So I stayed there by myself, and that's when it happened, when they were fighting each other. And I was like, what are they fighting for? Like they were literally fighting each other, jumping from branch to branch. And, the tank is pretty tall. So I was seeing them, and, what are they fighting for? And then that light bulb turned on. Oh, they're fighting for me. They see me as food. So I closed the hatch, and I stayed inside the tank for the rest of the night till the following day when, when the sun rose and I came out of the tank.
It's so large.
Well,
it's the largest base in North America. I mean, that's a huge military.
It's a huge military base, and those cougars are big, man. I've seen them sitting on the trees. They're massive. The cougars there on Fort Hood. When we go down range to go to shoot our, the targets we're supposed to shoot, to the left there was one called Piling Up. To the left was this big old tree, and there was cougar poop everywhere, but you could see the cougars on top of the tree. Like they were massive, and it's like they wasn't afraid of the tanks being there doing what we were doing, but you could see the cougars on there, on top of the trees.
Here's an interesting thing that'll tie into this too.
Josh, I have a question for you.
Go ahead. Okay. But okay, I guess Bettina.
Well, after you what you say, then can you just tell everybody? Like I've heard you. No, yeah, like I'm gonna let you finish what you were saying. Like, can you talk about the deer, not deer? Because I've heard you talk about it, and maybe one other person. But after you say whatever you're gonna say, can you tell everybody what about the deer, not deer, and what that is, or some accounts of that?
Yeah, we were just talking about that today, me and Ken, with one of the people that was at that conference, the San Antonio Paranormal Festival. The not deer, the most of the accounts that I got here in Texas about the not deer, I wouldn't say most, is we've gotten like a rash of them, and like maybe spurts about 3 different times. The first one was right outside of Corpus Christi. You know where Robstown is?
Yep. Robstown.
Yeah, that
right by Kingsville.
Mm-hmm. Let me go back. What I was going to say though, where this bull riding event took place at Scruggs, that area right there, right outside of Thrall, there's a little place called Noack. It's a spot on the road. Back up in there in that area of Central Texas and near the Lawrence Cemetery, which is on the way if you come off of Highway 79 and you go to Scruggs to go to the bull riding event there in Williamson County. There is a lot of stories, a huge amount actually, of these cat people. They're always black. They're never different color. It's a Black Panther type person. And they're always on their hind legs, like like that's how they know that they're not a regular panther. One of the stories I got from my, it wouldn't be my cousin, it'd be my cousin's cousin, but he told me a crazy story of one of these things grabbing a ewe, like a lamb, and carrying it up an 8-foot fence and just climbing up it and going over the top. The interesting thing about it, though, when they would see the tracks, now I'm not saying this is what killed this girl. I don't want people running and saying, oh, well, Josh Turner said blah, blah, blah. But the interesting thing about the tracks, though, when they photographed the tracks, the claws were out. Cats, we all know that cats, other than cheetahs have like runner spikes. They're like cleats, their nails stay out. Other than that, all cats, they all retract their claws are retractable. So when they walk, you don't see anything but the pad. You don't see the claws. The interesting thing about these creatures was that they had very large claws, and they were bipedal, and the tracks, the footprints they had the claws out. But these were definitely not Black Panthers. They were getting up on their hind legs and walking around like men. Honestly, Bettina, the picture that Sibylla did, and she put it in my book when I interviewed you for the book, whatever. And of course, you were interviewed by Ken and me. But that particular picture kind of reminds me of what was given to me by a guy named Doug that lived out there, who told me that one of these creatures had jumped on the hood of his car. And he has 2 different encounters. I told one of his stories, but I haven't told the other. This one was recent. It was about 6 months. Well, recent for me because I'm backed up, but about 6 months ago, which would have been like, I think February when he told me about this. Is that 6 months? I don't know. My time's off. But anyway, it was back like in late February. And he told me there was this cat-like creature that had jumped on the hood of his vehicle. And he saw it, and he told his wife, honey, there is a panther on our car. It stood up and went over the top of his vehicle and then down over the backside of it. And it was chasing. His neighbors have a bunch of stray cats that live in a barn. And he believes that's what it was chasing. He didn't see it, but he thinks that that's what it was, because eventually all those cats were wiped out. And that bipedal panther-like creature, when it jumped off of the back of the car, totally messed up his car. And when he got and it jumped off the back of the car, this was back in 2017 when that happened. But he said that it landed on its hind legs. And he gave me that story, like I think 6 months ago or whatever. The first one he had told me was about, I think him and his girlfriend were driving and they saw this guy like wave at him. And I've told the story on the show. And he said, and the only reason that I only had that particular story is because I had to go. We were on the phone and I said, look, send me the rest of them. And he never did. And then back in February, he did. So I was going through the archives and I found that one, which I thought was interesting, that the footprints or the paw prints were almost canid-like, because if it was a cat and really a true cat, it would have been retracted, and they weren't. So I thought that was interesting. That could have been something. Did you want me to go into the not deer now, or did you want to talk about the not panther still?
Yeah, I have a picture, Josh. I took a long time ago that looks something like a panther.
On that,
standing up.
Well, real quick, and then Abe, I'm gonna let you say what you want to say too about it. I do feel that I think that I've heard Ricardo Sanchez and maybe a couple of other people say some of the Dogmen have some feline type capabilities to them with retractable claws. And I've sent you pictures, and maybe it is a cat man because people have talked about those before. And I can't say, only thing I can say, I've seen something one time that looked like it had more of a lion type face or head more so than a dog man. But I really hate like the fact I don't have on video anymore. My mother accidentally deleted that, completely deleted that video. But Abe, what do you say on that? And then after that, Josh, go right into talking about the deer not deer. I'll let Abe speak on it.
Yeah,
Abe, go
I
ahead.
just
What you
I
gonna
just
say?
wanted to say to Josh that I believe I have a picture that looks something like a panther that's standing up that I took there in Elms Grove a long time ago. When in the story, it talks about where my son was saying that the man in black called me in the woods. When they were on that show, it was him and his friend. Well, that's when I went in there and I was following myself. I was taking pictures, and I have a picture where it looks like to seem to be like a face of a panther, but it's standing up. Maybe I'll send it to you after the show.
Yeah. Real quick though, like
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
You named Ricardo. Now, Ricardo and I don't see eye to eye. We don't get along, and we've never gotten along. I call him the Dogman Whisperer. He has done to me.
I think I coined that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you did. I think he's done damage to getting the reality of these creatures out there because he can't stand the views that us three have, which is that these things are not purely physical. He wants very much to believe, and this is where all the problems stem from with him, that they are an animalistic creature, that it is purely flesh and blood. He doesn't accept that they could be anything other than an unknown species of animal. He wants cryptozoology to take this field seriously. And I had a heated argument with him. I've had heated arguments with him. One of the arguments we had was just straight up. I told him, I said, dude, it's not going to happen. Mainstream cryptozoology is never going to accept that this is some sort of animal. First of all, it's bipedal. There is no animal that runs around like that other than primates. And I told him, I said, this is ridiculous to think that this is an animal because the things that they do defy the laws of physics. Now, him and his group of goofballs, they want to keep, and I don't care if he hears it or not. If you're listening, Ricardo, you're an idiot. And I'm going to say this straight up. You and your pack of goofballs go out there and you're looking for something. Yeah, you might find it, but it's not what you think it is. And you may have seen it. I don't doubt that maybe you did. But I can tell you this right now. It is not an undiscovered species of animal. Now, maybe if it's some sort of government tampered with or messed with, something that goes back to something biblical, maybe I could see that where they are tampering with it or messing with it. But as far as it actually being a physical flesh and blood creature that we're going to discover, no, sir. That is so ridiculous. And I've told him this many, many times. And anytime I'm in a group that those guys are in, they come running and like a pack of hyenas. That's probably why he thinks it's a hyena, because that's what they are, a bunch of hyenas. And every time there's a problem, they stir the pot because they're going further and further down the food chain in this community, and that's a problem for them because nobody's taking them seriously. And I'll tell you why they're not taking them seriously, because there is no proof, and there never has been, and as far as I'm concerned, there probably never will be. These creatures are not an animal, okay? They are not a wolf. They are not a dog. They are not a hyena. And this thing, it's not a black panther, okay? These things are something completely different, and I don't give a crap. They can scream it from the rooftops until their eyeballs bleed. It's not going to make it true. And that right there just burns me whenever somebody mentions him as a serious researcher, because if you were a serious researcher, you would be open to looking at all the possibilities. Now, I started out looking at the possibilities of them as a flesh and blood creature because I thought what I saw was flesh and blood. And I had to come, like all big boys and girls do, you have to come to the right conclusion and grow up and realize that these things, they're not animals, and they are not a purely flesh and blood phenomena. There's something in between. Now, moving on from that, going into the not deer, that is another creature, that we've gotten reports of. Now, there was a guy who came out on Ricardo's buddy's show, which I think was Crypto Normal X. Now, that show doesn't exist anymore. And then he, who he is, P. Pirates. And he came out with another show, and it kept, I forgot the names of all those ridiculous shows he had. Good production value, bad work. But anyway, he had this guy on his show, and I'm sure he was cringing because the guy kept mentioning my name every 5 minutes. But in fairness to the guy, though, he was trying to get a grasp of what he saw. And he was talking about an area outside of Corpus Christi. This guy does a podcast following the Dallas Cowboys. It's actually pretty good. But it's ironic that he's seen these not deer. And if I remember correctly, he saw 3 of them. And he talks about it on one of those shows. And I remember listening, and the guy was trying, I can't remember his name. He's on my friends list. But he actually has sent me, I think he sent me something recently. He's got a podcast about the Dallas Cowboys. But he saw 3 of them, and it was right outside of Corpus Christi. Now, the weird thing is that I filled a report right, you know where Robstown is, Abe, which isn't far from Corpus. Yeah. So Robstown, great baseball team. We played them years ago. That's what they do. All they do there is just fish, hunt, and play baseball. But right outside of there was a guy that was out hunting, and it was deer season. And when he went to put one of these things on a scope, he kept seeing it get up on its hind legs and was trying to get something that was in a tree. And he thought it was really weird. And so when he put it on the scope, he saw it like open its mouth, and the mouth looked weird. I saw a picture recently of a horse that was a computer generated. It was an AI generated photo. It wasn't real. And the people weren't trying to pass it off as real. It was just what it was. It was an AI generated picture of a horse with a mouth full of teeth. And the way he described that not deer sounds very similar to that. It sounded like that was what it was. I want to get this guy's name, though, the one that saw the 3 of them outside of Corpus. He's got some great information on the not deer, and he would be a good guest. I'm going to get his information, Bettina, and I'm going to send him your way, and then you can interview him about that. Yeah. He's a Hispanic guy, and like that guy, his story about the not deer, like he saw 3 of them, but this particular individual, what he saw, and his name was Noah, and what he saw was this thing like up on the tree. And when he looked at what the I said paws, which should have been hooves, looked like paws, but it looked like a deer. It had antlers like a deer. He said it wasn't a huge rack,
Wow.
It was a small like buck, and it wasn't a big buck either. He said if you were to take something the size of a human, a skinny human, and turn it into a deer, that's what it looked like. And the eyes, get this, the eyes were glowing, and it was daylight. It was daylight, but when the sun was refracting off of the eyes was green, which is yeah. So that's not normal. And then he said that eventually it got down, and his brother-in-law actually was with him. He had gone around the side because they were in like a deer stand. When he'd gone around the side of the building, and he came back, and after he was doing his business, and he said, "Hey, I just saw something weird." And when he sat down, he said, at first I thought he was going to think I was crazy or that I was lying or just making something up, because he had talked about earlier wanting to go home because it was snow, and he was like getting cold, and he said, I want to go home. And so he thought, no, he's going to think I'm just trying to leave. And so he was always teasing him about how, oh, my sister's got you under control, whatever. So he didn't want to say anything. Finally, he tells the guy, he says, look, I saw something really weird. When he began to describe to the other hunter, his brother-in-law, what he saw, he said, oh, man, I know exactly what you're talking about, dude. I've seen a couple of these things. The last time that he saw something, now that guy is about 10 years older than his wife, and he's only 2 years younger than his wife. So the guy's about 12 years older than him. He said back in the 80s, and this was in the early 2000s when this happened, he said back in the 80s, like he saw these things 2 deer seasons in a row. And after the second time, I think he said it was 87 and 88. He goes, after that, I didn't go deer hunting for 10 years. So, for a few years, he said, man, he's like, I was done. He goes, and then it took my cousins, my primos, like messing with me. Come on, man, you're being a wussy, whatever. And he goes, and a lot of alcohol to go back out there and hunt. He said, when he told me that, he goes, dude, I really want to leave now. He goes, it's cold. The only thing I've seen is this mutant deer. I don't want to be out here. Take me home. And so when they went home, and he says, yeah, don't tell my sister, that's his wife. He's like, because if you do, she's not gonna let you go hunting again. And he said a couple months later, he had told his stepson, and he ran and told his mom. And then she was like, you're not going back out there. Because she apparently had heard her brother talk about this years ago, but she never believed it. But when he told her, she's like, okay, now there's two people that have seen these weird things. What they are, I have no idea. But that is indicative of what these encounters consist of, like some sort of weird mutant deer that looks like, and some people say it's some sort of sickness or whatever. Bull crap. Deer do get sickness. They get all kinds of tuberculosis. They carry Lyme disease. They have all kinds of stuff that goes on. But they also get a wasting disease, a disorder. It's almost like CJD in cows, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is, we know it as mad cow. Now, there's a form of it that happens to deer, but that doesn't explain the mouth full of canine-like teeth, and it doesn't explain the bird looking like paws. The way he described it was not dog paws, but the paws were not black. And get this, he said they were like tawny brown, the color of a cougar. Now, deer oftentimes are tawny brown, but this thing had cougar-like paws. And he said even that it had claws that were hanging onto the tree. So retractable or not, I don't know. But it sounds very much like a chimeric type creature, something that can only be generated in a lab, or something that comes out of the inner earth, or something demonic. I have no idea like exactly what I believe about this situation. But it is very telling. That is just one example. Another one we got is out of the LBL. We got another one out of Florida. Ever since we did the not deer episode, we have gotten a flurry of reports that kind of come in spurts, and then if you talk about it or bring it up, then chances are somebody's going to say, hey, I was out hunting and I saw something that looks like this creature. So there's that. I'm going to look this guy's name up.
Do you think that the not deer? Well, do you think that the not deer is some kind of skinwalker or shapeshifter, some type of demonic type entity? Like I've heard people say that they feel like that about the goat man. But what are your thoughts on that? You too, Abe.
Ask Abe first. What do you think, Abe?
That's what
I got a story for you. So you're talking about the deer. There was one evening, my oldest nephew from my sister B, he wanted to join the military. So we're talking out there on the front porch, but then we went to the park because there's some picnic tables. We went to the park. We're talking on the picnic tables at the park by the swimming pool in Elms Grove. So I'm just giving him advice what to do if he wants to join, what to expect and stuff like that. And on top of the tree, of the acorn tree, we're hearing like claw marks, like something scratching on top of the tree. Yeah. So we figured it's some kind of tree lizard or something, the ones that have the spikes on the back. That's what I'm thinking. So we're still talking there. Next thing you know, we just hear boom, a big old massive branch falls to the ground behind us, lands. And when I looked to my left, something landed beside it. And, so you're talking about the seems not like a deer. Well, it's standing there and it's looking at me and I'm looking at it. And now I had already seen what seemed to be like the Dogman or werewolf like thing. There was nothing compared to it. It kind of looked like it was like a cat of some sort, like a bobcat wildcat mix. It was like light brown and he had spots on it. And he was looking at me and I was looking at it. And it turned its head and it ran into the creek. When it ran into the creek, it was running on twos. He broke the branches. You can hear the branches break, and you can hear it land in the water in the creek. Next thing you know, we're looking, and my nephew's like, "You seen that, Unc?" And I'm just say, "Yeah, I see it." And then he came back into the park, and is running on twos, all the way across to the park where I had my encounter. But it wasn't the same ones that I seen. It was something completely different. So I believe it has the capabilities to change, manifest itself to look like however, but it was running on twos. I was going to try to run after it, but I was like, why would I run after that? It was bigger than me. It had to be like a good, I would say it was like a good 7 foot tall because it was real tall, but its weight broke the branch of the acorn, and it was a big branch. I mean, I witnessed that, but it wasn't. It was in the. It was close. I was like probably 5, 6 foot away from it, and when we were sitting at the park, there was a light, so I was able to see it. That's why I got the hell out of there. You know, I didn't want to go through no more encounters of Dogman, shapeshifters. It's this thing that fell from the tree. It's like, or the UFO thing activity, the government coming into the park in their black SUVs. I had to get out of there, man. I couldn't take it no more.
Okay, so the guy's name is Mark De Leon.
Mark De Leon.
I just got in touch with him right now. He sent me a picture, Bettina, of what some sort of predator that looks like one giant bite, and it took the entire midsection out of a I think it's a goat. And that happened in College Station, and you know where that's at, Abe.
Yes, in Bryan, Texas.
Yeah, Bryan, College Station. This looks like it's a goat for sure. I sent it to you, Bettina. If you want to post that, you can.
Also, the deer woman. Have you ever heard the deer woman?
Oh yeah,
about the deer. I witnessed something like that, brother. Because we had the creek had rose, and it took the picnic tables to the tree line. So I got a picnic table we put in front of my house. So me and my nephew were talking. You know, me and my nephew would always talk at nighttime. So we were talking out there in the front of the picnic table, and we seen something big going after the flood. A lot of the houses that got flooded. So my neighbor said, "Hey, can you watch my home? You know, till the water resides or whatever. You know, and I got to fix my home. Can you wash it?" So we were washing, and he couldn't move his car because the water went in his motor. You know, and so I was looking. We seen something big pass by his vehicle. So me and my nephew ran down the street, you know, and to see who it was, and we're looking to see who might be trying to break into his vehicle because they were standing by his vehicle. So I was looking, and I was going in between the mobile homes, and as I was going to go behind his mobile home and his neighbors, a woman came out of the darkness, and she's smiling. She has a beautiful smile. She's probably like 5'6", very beautiful. And what was weird about it, she had this shirt that had like prints like a deer, right? So she's looking at me, and I said, "Are you here for Brother Dave?" And she just looked at me, have a smile, and there's the thing she asked me, "Can I have a ride? Can you give me a ride?" And I said, "Ma'am, I don't even know who you are." And then she looked at my nephew, and she had the smile on her face, and she asked him, "Can you give me a ride?" So I would, but I don't even know who you are, ma'am. Next thing you know, she didn't even say nothing about Brother Dave. She started walking up the street, but it seemed weird how she was acting, right? So as we're looking at her, and she's walking up the street, it's like she didn't get enough time to, I guess, transform. In which one of her legs was flapping like this. It was flap. His right leg was flapping like this, and you can see a hoof, which seems to look like a deer leg, where it hadn't fully manifested itself to look human, and her leg was just flapping like this real fast. And me and my nephew look at each other like, "What the hell is that?" So we started following her, and she was moving fast. So we started running full speed, you know, and my nephew was pretty fast. So by the time we ran up out of the exit, she wasn't even there. And when we looked to the left, she was on the highway moving real fast. But I know it wasn't a woman, and I know to me it was the deer woman, the shapeshifter. So the legend says is with this deer woman that she'll mesmerize you with her beauty. But if you pay close attention to the legs, most guys, you know, they pay attention just to the face. But if they don't pay attention to the feet, that's where the beastly manifestation is.
Crazy that you're talking about that, because Ken talked about that at the conference.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen, and there's been a lot of reports of this, especially truck drivers, where they get this deer woman, and some people don't make it because if they don't see the beastly form of the foot, and they take her into the cab, because you know what truck drivers do. Some, not all of them, some of them don't make it. They're found dead and stuff like that. But she basically, the deer woman is like a native shapeshifter, you know, and that's what they do. They go looking for men that are being unfaithful, you know. That's what they do. I don't know how if brother Steve was being brother Dave was being unfaithful, but she was there. But I was just trying to share that story with y'all.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that. Ken was talking about a story in San Antonio that he had collected of someone who had gone dancing And we've all heard these stories. They'll go to a quinceañera, and they'll be dancing with somebody, and there's somebody that's all suave, or whatever. And then they look, and their spouses over there like all celoso, like, they're jealous. And they're like, why is this person? And they think something, and they look down and they're like, hey, pick up, look at the legs, And then there's something that's not correct, like chicken feet looking things and various types of creatures.
Hooves, yeah. I've heard those stories all the time, man. When I was growing up, I was like, they're saying the stories to get me scared to going out to the quinceañeras. But I heard stories like that where the woman was dancing, and then whoever she was dancing with was not even a person from that town, but they had the leg of the wolf and a tail sticking of the devil, and that it took the girl.
Do you ever hear of the manos peludos? The hairy hand. The hairy hand is a scary story. When I was a child, we used to go to San Juan, the mission down there. And so when I had to go down to San Juan with my tío Jova, my mom my abuelita died when I was not even 2. So she had lost both of her legs to diabetes. And so my mom, she told me, we got to go with tío Jova down to San Juan. I was always like, Mom, I don't want to go. It's like, I hate it. I try to, just whatever. And now I miss her so much because she was like my surrogate abuelita, which is grandmother in Spanish. So but by the time we got down to probably around Alice, like I was already so scared, dude. We got into that church. I was lighting candles like crazy, bro. I was like, there was like, I was on board completely. I was like I'm gonna, this time I'm not gonna participate. I'm just gonna sit there and pout, because you're mad. Oh goodness, man, I'm tired of this, be told what to do, and I hated it. And it was like, and so my mom made me do it every 6 months. We had to go down there, man. And sometimes it was like every 3 to 6 months, and I would just be like, how many candles do we need to light, And I'm like, we're not even Catholic anymore. My mom's like, I don't care. Your tia's Catholic, and you're gonna go to catechism, and you're gonna go to the whatever. So I had to do that to please them. And my dad's stepmother, which was the only grandmother I knew on that side, she was Catholic. So I had to go to CCD, and they would like grill me too, man. They'd be like, what did you learn? And I had to tell them because they knew, if I didn't tell them, then it was, you're lying, And so she would tell us these ghost stories, and it was two parts to it. The first part was to make you entertain you, but the second part was to scare you righteously. And it worked. And the Manos Paludo story, it's always the same. There's like some guy in a bar somewhere in Mexico. It could be Matamoros. It could be all the way to Guadalajara. It don't matter. Yeah. It's like, hey, whatever region, where it's the Yucatan or it's Guerrero, whatever. They always have the same premise. There's some guys, and they're always bandidos, and they're around a table, and they're playing cards, and the barkeep says, hey, like, vámonos, we got to go. You guys got to go out. Take it outside, afuera, And they're like, nah, like, and they say a bunch of mean things to him. Maybe threaten him or take a cuerta and point it at him. That's a gun, and or a filero, a knife. And he's like, okay, fine. And either through brujeria or some sort of like, God's teaching them a lesson, something always happens. And they get so borracho teresos, They keep playing cards. Next thing you know, there's an extra set of hands playing with them, and these babosos don't even notice that. And they're hairy. They're hairy with black claws, always the same story. I've heard this story told over and over again, and I've heard it from a guy in El Paso. We were sitting there at Chico's Tacos, which I'm not from El Paso, but that's the big draw. It's like, oh, Chico's Tacos, not really my bag. It's kind of like flautas that are just wet and soaked in chile water, And so I was eating some, and, I always go, carry my business cards, and I always have my stuff, You never know when you're going to get a story, And so Scorpio goes up because he liked them, and he got another order, and he's telling the guy that works there, and if we had any good ghost stories or if they knew anybody who had any stories, whatever. And this guy comes from behind the counter, big, heavy set, really nice guy, like mucho. He sits down, man, and he starts telling us a story. He says, when I was 4 years old, he goes, I was in Monterrey. He goes, and I witnessed the Manos Peludos. And I was like, you witnessed it. And this is what he told me. And I don't know if this is true, but he said, as a child, you could see the whole shape of the creature. And it is an actual being, he said. And it was his uncle. Of course, everybody who's Mexicano has an uncle named Chuy. One of his tíos' name was Chuy.
Which means Jesse.
Yeah, it's always. And so they were playing cards, and one of them's wife comes out and says, "Hey, y'all been out here all night. Take it somewhere else. We got to go to sleep. The children need to go to bed. And they're like, "Hey, get back in the house. Whatever. Shut up. And so, cállate la boca, or they were telling her, shut up, whatever. And she got in an argument with him, and she said, "You know what? You're going to see the devil tonight. That Mexican women love to say that, man. When they get really mad, that's the first go-to is like, you're going to see the devil, And so she says something to them like that, and it's like a particular right? So the next thing you know, he goes, I'm sitting there on a bucket, like those little Home Depot buckets, right? And he goes, and I'm looking up, and I see this thing. Now, I'll never forget this. He was a big, heavy-set guy, pelón. He was telling me, he was real animated, and he goes, I'm going to tell you guys this, man. And he was sitting there holding his apron. I'll never forget. And he sat there and he told me and my brother, Scorpio, he says, this thing looked like a monkey, like a changuito. And he goes, and it sat on that bucket. He goes, and when it looked over at me and it smiled, he goes, and it had little horns and the ears were pointed back like an elf's. And he said that the way it looked at him, and he said the ojos like yellow, like real yellow, right? And it looks over at him, and then it sits there and it's like this, and it just like formed hands and was playing cards and was dealing. And these guys, these pendejos, they don't even know that they're playing with this thing. And one of these guys is Cabron. He gets all mad and he's all like, "Hey, I don't know you." Like he's looking at this, right? And he said that when he said that, this creature looked like he could see through it. Like he could see through this creature. He said it put a mask on like a man. And it looked over at him, and it was like he knew it was laughing because him as a little kid, he could see everything that was happening.
Yes.
These guys, they were like, "I don't know you, man." He goes, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" And he said, "Oh, I'm the neighbor. I live down the street." And the other guy is sitting next to him. He's so baracho that he's all like, "Oh, man, he's good, man. He's good. He's." And then they're just like, okay. So they keep playing cards. And next thing you know, they're all losing their money to this guy. And one of them gets really upset because he can see this guy as a man, whereas he saw him as like this weird creature, this humanoid chonguito. And whenever he saw this guy told us, he says, "Man, it looked like an actual, like how you would see like a Bigfoot, but it had a tail like a cat, like a Black Panther. And the legs were swinging back and forth like it was too small, like the legs were too short to touch the ground." And he said it was like a monkey, a little monkey, but the claws were splayed out like a chicken's foot. And he told us that story, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" He's just, I'm sitting there like eating tacos with this dude, man, and he's like, "No mentiras, hombre, for real, man." And I was like, "No, hombre, way, this is crazy, right? Like, tú tienes carajo, man." Like, I didn't believe this dude, man. And he's just like, "I wouldn't lie about this, man." He goes, "You wanted a story? I gave you a story. That's what happened." When he walked off, I sat there and we all just kind of took it in, and I thought, what if that's really how it works? What if that is why this actually happened? What if that is the real, like there is some sort of demonic, inhumanoid, cryptid type creature that appears? And
the opening, I think the opening was that they were being mean with a bartender. The bartender wished bad towards them, so it left that opening for it to appear. Or like you say, the stories when they try to scare us, that's the opening, the fear factor, right? So we're open to it because we're believing it to be real. So then things start happening around us.
And what about La Llorona? Because like I've always wondered if it was like in the sangre, like if it's something that's in the blood, like at the siege of Tenochtitlan, when Cortez's men, when they were laying siege to it with their Tlaxcalan allies, and they were defeating the Aztecs. There is a legend that there was a woman that was heard on the ramparts wailing, "My children, we are lost. My children, we are lost. The treasures of the Aztecs are lying at the bottom of the lake. We are lost. We are lost. The treasures of the Aztecs lie at the bottom of the lake." So they heard this wailing, the Spaniards and a lot of the Indios, they claimed that for years that they remember hearing this. And from that, the legend and the story probably spread all throughout Mexico. But it's really, of all the Latino countries and the people with the Latin bloodline, it's predominantly Mexicanos who actually talk about the La Llorona. La Llorona is not something that you hear people like Hondurans. I've never heard them talk about it, or Puerto Ricans or Cubanos. I never heard them talk about it, or Venezuelans or Colombians.
Irish, the color, the whaler, the Irish people, the color of the whaler.
Banshee, right? Yeah.
The Banshee, whaler, the whaler.
Grounded in the myth. And if you know the story, Abe, do you know the story of La Llorona?
Yeah.
Yeah, she drowned her children, supposedly, right? And she goes around to different bodies of water, whether it's a stream, a river, a lake. She's always seen near the water. But according to Mexicans, and exclusively Mexicans, I still have yet to meet one person, non-Mexican, who heard this wailing, who actually heard her say, "My children, my children." It's always Mexicanos who say that. Yeah, people do see these banshee type creatures or entities near water, but it's only been, in my experience, the Mexicans that will say, or Tejanos, them too, and they'll say that they hear it, or Chicanos, and they'll say, my children, and she's looking for her children, but it could be something that goes back, like the first that was invoked that day.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of, well, that it goes way back, would be Lilith.
Yeah. Well,
her children,
like the
church.
Well, the Lachuth is the heart.
Because Lilith was supposed to be before Eve, and Lilith didn't want to be equal to Adam. She wanted to be equal to Adam. She didn't want Adam to be over her, and
sexual positioning, actually.
Yeah, and she left, and God sent an angel to bring her back, and she didn't want to listen. So that's when she turned into this demonic form or whatever. But she got banned to live within the wilderness. But yeah, but we know through the Mexican folklore that he's dealing with a woman that was seeing a man was married, but he was seeing a man. She had children with a man, and the man was never going to be with her. So he stopped seeing her. She got mad and killed her kids, which was his kids also. Mm-hmm. She drowned them. And then after that, that's when I guess God punished her to roam earth to search for her children, and you find her seeking for her children in the creeks, rivers, lakes, or whenever it's raining, and you hear her saying, mis hijos, mis hijos. It's a wailing sound so low in pitch that it hurts your ears. And she's all like in white, covering her face, and she's like a spirit form, and she can go through walls. That's why I'm surprised when she was wailing in front of our house that she never came in, because I seen her go right through a link fence, like literally go through a link fence, and a trucker heard her, seen her pass in front of the truck, where he seen a woman in white, and he dodged her and he flipped his truck over. And he was saying that a woman got in front of his 16-wheeler, but they never found the woman. But yeah, the Llorona, we see her all the time down there in Romoville, Texas, at the canals, mm-hmm. Where there's water, or we're seeing her down San Francisco Street, where she will come from the canal. She'll be crying and go crying all the way through the center of the street. Like literally, people are seeing her crying through the street, dressed in white. But yeah, that's just crazy. Especially when you see her, man. When you see her crying, the way she cries. I remember one time they trapped her in a. She went into a building and they had all the doors covered. I said, "We're gonna go get her. She's inside." And they went inside. There was nobody in there, because she's like an apparition,
Yeah, and of course, like you said, in Ireland, the Banshee. You have all these different stories of these females that like the sirens,
Sirens, yeah.
Yeah, the sailors would end up like running aground because the sirens would lead them astray, and it has something to do with the female form and people and water. I just think that it's weird, when I was reading Cortez and the Downfall of the Aztec Empire, it was a really good book by John Manship White. It's a really, really good book, and when I read that, how that part of the book, it actually brings that up, that there was a part where she was heard to be wailing And of course, the Aztecs took that as an ill omen. And a lot of Mexicans believe that a curse was released that day that follows those people of Mexican heritage. But I think that all Latins, American people, see something near the water, just like people see, like these mermaid type creatures. Like I just did one on the Caspian Sea. These inhumanoids that people see in the oceans and the seas. The Caspian is actually not the ocean, but it's an inland sea. But what's crazy though is that with the Mexican culture, they're the only ones that say that it's crying out for the children. I've never heard anybody Latin American say otherwise.
And what's weird is you said they're by a body of water, ocean, it's still water. Mm-hmm. Makes you wonder if it's really a siren. Like the crying. No, I don't know how a siren sounds, but I would assume it was a loud sound that would attract the soldiers, like it was singing or something, to attract them. So, I wonder if they have anything in common, the Llorona with the sirens, because it cries. I don't know the sound. What I hear about sirens is it would be like a singing sound or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they have anything in common because of the bodies of water, Like
the undine, which is what they're called.
Y'all got a lot of good questions, a lot of good comments, and stuff like that.
You want to go ahead and do that? We can talk about that. The undine are
for about 3 hours.
That would inhabit water. They're like a spirit or a nymph.
Well, I'm gonna. Josh and Abe, real quick. Josh, did you want to keep going? If so, I think I'm going to tap out. But if you want to keep the show going with Abe, I'm going to tap out, and you can just let me know when y'all are done. Or if not, then we can come back. This is really.
Oh, no, I'm good. I can bounce.
We still got
ready to call it. I'm ready to too. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was talking while you were talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'll shut it down because we're at 3 hours.
Yeah,
we're at 3 hours, and I'm got exhausted now.
But I was interested in what he was going to say. What you were going to say, Josh? I'm interested in that about the nymphs.
Yeah. Y'all go ahead. I'm tapping. We'll be back to shut it down in a few minutes.
Just say the nymphs. What you're going to say about the nymphs in the water?
Well, it's your. Hold on one second, Abe. It's your show between me. If you're going to bounce, then I'm going to bounce too.
We'll bounce.
Yeah.
I tell you what, y'all, it's about 3 hours. I can barely keep my eyes open now, so I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. Y'all, if y'all got more stuff, channel is Paranormal Roundtable, and he's also got the Facebook group Paranormal Round. Channel is Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters, and also he has a YouTube channel as well. And you guys, I will reach back out to them because you guys seem to really love the two of them in the discussions that we've had. So we will do more panels together. Josh, and the picture that Josh sent me, y'all, is a crazy picture. It's terrifying. It's like, oh my God, it's probably right along the lines of some of the stuff we've heard in some of these unknown canine attacks. But the bite that he's just sent me out of this goat that he sent me, it's bigger, way bigger than a bear's mouth.
Yeah.
So y'all got to see that. I will share that in the group. It'll probably be censored. Hopefully, Facebook won't flag me for it, but I will share that in the group.
That's why
Josh, I think you should share it in your group too.
If somebody wants to share it, they can share.
I'm gonna make me remove it. I'll just remove it.
I won't share pictures in my group.
Yes, and thank y'all all. I'm gonna share it, but if anything come of it, like y'all know it, like I might have to remove it. But I'm gonna send it out there.
You can put it in my group.
Well, I will, Abe, and I'm actually, let me just see if I can show it on the phone real quick for those people who don't be on Facebook that have absolutely no idea. But I'm going to see if y'all can see this. But I don't know, maybe I got too much camera glare.
Yeah, you got to go up a little bit. Go up. There you go. There it is. That was sent to me by Mark DeLeon, the one that saw the deer.
What did he say? What did he say? That's what did this?
They don't know what did that. That was right outside of College Station, but that looks pretty crazy. It looks like one solid bite.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Mm-hmm. And that picture was given to me like 2-3 years ago. I have tons of photos, man. Like I was showing people at the conference, photos. But I won't post what I have in any of the groups or whatever. But if someone else wants to take the pictures and post them in the group themselves, they can. I get enough ridicule and enough, oh, why are you putting that on there? I don't see nothing and blah, blah, blah. I don't need all
that.
Oh, man. 99 problems, but pictures ain't one because I don't make them.
And whoever, like the guy that...
You guys got balls to do that because I got enough fighting them already on every front. I don't need picture problems, And I defend you guys sometimes too, That's why I'm hearing Chuck Norris water. Look at this. I didn't even know. Look at this. Like, Chuck Norris water.
Chuck Norris.
I was like, what is this? I saw a little dude in a cowboy hat on.
You're going to try... Hey, Judge, you're going to try to bless him and throw a roundhouse kick at him afterwards. The Chuck Norris roundhouse kick, you knock him out.
You split the forehead with a roundhouse kick of the Dogman. So it was good talking to you guys, and thank you for having me on. Sorry it took so long to get you. I had dinner.
You too.
I had to go to. We're here in San Antonio with friends, and so we had to, but anybody, I am going to a convention in the morning. But I'm going to get home in time to do the live stream, folks. So if you're interested, guys, drop by the live stream tomorrow night. We're going to tell some great stories of people's encounters. And, we're going to do what we do. So thank you for coming to check us out on Bettina's channel. Bettina is definitely one of my friends, and so is Abe. And always a pleasure to do work with you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And likewise, brother.
Yeah.
Same to you. All y'all
right,
for
so
showing up tonight
like and
for
subscribe.
making this a great experience. And
welcome back.
And check out Paranormal Roundtable. Thank you so much. That, like I said, the conference reinvigorated me to come back, and then talking to Abe behind the scenes. I had to come back. I felt like, just meeting up with the fans and the subscribers and members of the group and stuff like that is awesome. And I said, you know what? It's time to come back out. I'm one of only a few females out there in the cryptid field, like actually in this, and I think the one and only black female, African American female.
Yeah, and like I said at the conference, I mentioned that somebody had come at me sideways, and they were like telling me and Ken, oh, well, you got her because she's a black female. And I was like, no, we got her. First of all, she's my friend, and she does good work. Her being black is just, a coincidence. It has nothing to do with it. But people will come at you and attack you any way you can. All you can do is pray for them. That's all you can do.
True.
That's it. And the way that people think that way, too, is so wrong.
Absolutely. And World Bigfoot, it is, and it's crazy. World Bigfoot Radio, I see that you're still out there. If you could reach out to Josh Turner, or y'all exchange information, Josh would like to talk to you. And I think he is still out there right now. He just commented. So everybody, thank y'all for a great show tonight. Thank you y'all with all your excellent questions. And with that being said, everybody, love y'all. Thanks, Marquetta, for showing up and moderating as usual, and all the other moderators as well. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all so much. Y'all have a good night. And thank you for Josh and Abe. Thank y'all for coming on the show again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good night, everybody.
All right, good night.
Thanks, Josh.
Good night.